Okay, good morning, everyone. Apologies to break your lovely morning discussions, but we've waited 10 minutes and it's about time to start this wonderful event right now. I have the duty and the honor of opening today's event, but before I do so, I have a few housekeeping rules that need to be set first with the clicker that does not seem to work. So I'll need to ask Elisa to help me with this one. So as you can imagine, as all of these events that go hybrid, this is being live streamed. So first thing, the microphones. Please do not switch them on unless this is your time to speak, because you'll be cutting the speakers just like it happened right now. If you want to hear better, you've got your headphones. You need to plug them in, and you've got the little plus-minus signs. This is what where the volume is being raised. And obviously, for all those online, if you can also mute your phones, headphones, your microphones, sorry, it'll be wonderful. And final comment, there will be photos taken during this event, but I think you all consented to your images being taken by coming to this event. So that's it for me as for the housekeeping rules. So I can now move to the more exciting part, so my opening. Welcome again, and welcome on this premises of the European Committee of the Regions. My name is Dorota Tomalak, and I lead on the committee's work on public health. The committee, as you know, is one of the EU institutions. It's probably one of the youngest EU institutions, and it's a political assembly. So now I just want you to picture your mayor, your president, your council. These are the very people that come to Brussels a few times a year to make decisions, to draw reports, to advise the European Union on what works best for their communities in quite a few different policies, including, obviously, also public health policy. And these members have one thing in common. They have this democratic mandate. They've been elected, so they have the validation to do things in Brussels, to advise and to bring home the messages that are elaborated at the European level. And this is quite important, because when we ask Europeans what matters most in life, health is always among the top priorities. It's always among the top answers they give us. And it's not just random, yeah, health, why not, love as well. But it's also health where Europeans want the European Union to do more. And that's quite striking, because when you ask national governments, there's always this sort of a jealousy almost. This is our competence, don't touch it. And we see a lot with local and regional level that this reserve is maybe not there. Your mayor, your regional president, these people are pragmatic. So they want things to be done the best for their communities. And we saw how that best can work when COVID-19 struck in 2020. No region, no city, no province, no country was immune. And it was thanks to the involvement of the European Union, financial involvement, regulatory involvement, political involvement, that we were able to move to mass vaccination and were able to reopen the continent at the speed we had. This has happened because all hands were on deck. And not to mention that about 1 million lives have been saved thanks to this coordinated approach. And the same could actually happen for cancer, we believe. Cancer is today one of the major public health concerns in Europe. 1 in 4 Europeans, and I'm including Norway and Iceland in this quota, died because of cancer in 2022. And I have been, I think, talking for about 2 minutes. I'm talking about my opening part. That's about 10 people who heard the diagnosis during that time, statistically speaking. So I think this is a major problem, and this is the #1 killer already, and it will become the #1 statistically also in the next decade. Of course, I mean, progress has already been made. Before I was born, only 1 in 3 children would survive past 10 years having heard the diagnosis. Today, the statistic is slightly better, well, a lot better. 80% will recover fully. But it is still the most common cause of death because of disease in children and adolescents. And those that do survive are often left with psychological and physical as well as social consequences throughout their lives. Access to medicine, that also varies a lot. In some countries, 90% of oncological medicine is available on the market at all time. In other member states, it's less than 50. So of course, the chances of combating cancer are not exactly the same everywhere. Same for us, the adults. There are also huge differences as well. Obviously, men tend to succumb more than women. If your socioeconomic level is lower, again, less chances. But also, within the member states, there are huge regional differences. And I'm not only talking about poorer Eastern Europe, where I personally come from. These differences occur also in Germany and in Spain, where you have 40%, 40 difference in survival rates between the regions. Now, by the end of this year, the Commission will be evaluating one of its FAR projects, Europe's Beating Cancer Plan. It's also the end of this year where we see the change at the helm of the Commission. We have the new mandate starting, new priorities and new ideas. So this is, in a way, a pivotal moment to put forward some requests and to stress the need how things can be done differently, can be done better, and what are the lessons we can draw from the previous mandate. Meanwhile, we also know that health systems, and I may open a little parenthesis, health systems are actually managed at the regional level in the majority of member states. So these health systems have been under considerable strain for a number of years. Make your peak. It's aging. It's workforce shortages. It's budgetary cuts in some places. But it's also the pandemic. So these health systems have been suffering for a long period. And they need strengthening, and it needs to happen right now, because otherwise their resilience is under question. The much debated and recently adopted Draghi report offers some solutions. What could be the ways of strengthening the resilience of our systems, including health system? And one of these answers is precise medicine. Now, why is he suggesting that? Because it blends these two elements that are needed to make a difference. On one hand side, it stimulates innovation and competitiveness within the pharmaceutical sector, but in the same time, it offers better solutions, more optimized treatment, and ultimately better outcomes for patients. Now, precision medicine is revolutionary, but it's not science fiction. It's merely the future. Our understanding of how human bodies function has been evolving steadily. We already know that our gender, our age, our diet, our race, and our own DNA affect our bodies, how they react to certain chemical molecules, whether they respond or not to certain treatment and to certain medicines. And while at this moment in time, it still feels unreal to imagine that every single person in the EU could have a personal treatment at any point in time, these times may come. But in the meantime, what we need more research, we need more analysis, and we need more trialing at large scale so that we have the data that would enable us to discern patterns, to categorize these patterns, and then to develop more individualized pathways, care pathways across these different categories. And now, ladies and gentlemen, before I close, I've got just one final comment. For the last 5 years, we have enjoyed one of the largest EU health budgets ever. But I mean, this bonanza is ending. We still have about a couple of years under this programming period. We have still 5 more years if we take the Horizon Cancer mission. But let's be honest, the fat years are almost over and the lean ones are coming, which means that any future investment in health will need to be well argued, well documented, and will have to deliver for both health systems and for the patients. And with this, I would like to close my opening words, and I would like to give the floor to the patient representative with a lovely name, Meryl, like Meryl Streep. Thank you.
One before, please. Yes. Okay. Thank you very much. Next slide, please. Well, hello, good morning. My name is Merel Henning, and I'm here as a lung cancer patient, and I will talk about the impact that precision medicine has on patients, especially lung cancer patients. I'm the living proof. Without precision medicine, I wouldn't be standing here today. And also, I'm a patient advocate on a regional, national, European and global level. So I speak with a lot of patients and I see a lot of data from surveys. Next slide, please. Well, this is an old setting the scene slide, which was not made by me, but a colleague of me, and he was, well, I'm a historian by training, so I like the Dark Ages through the Enlightening to now. We're not in the Golden Age yet because people are still dying from cancer. But it's like the improvement that we have made in the last decade. Next slide. So I was diagnosed 10 years ago, and right after my diagnosis, I was told that I had to live statistically 1 to 3 years. We have a Dutch philosopher, René Gudde, and he mentioned if you're being diagnosed, then suddenly you have to switch boats. If you're healthy, you're sitting in a speedboat with your head towards the future, and it goes fast. But if you get the cancer diagnosis, suddenly you have to switch the boat into a rowing boat with your back towards the future and just pedaling, just to just be. But because my postcode and I was living near an academic center, I had access to biomarker testing, which made all the differences. Several biopsies were taken and testing various mutations, and finally a rare form of lung cancer, the ROS1 fusion, was found. And there was a targeted therapy for me available and reimbursed. And within days, the drug worked wonders. And what it felt like a death sentence, it was postponed. A common cancer has become rare. I was fortunate to have a biomarker testing and an effective targeted treatment, and all of which allowed me to have a good quality of life with only manageable side effects. My wish was always to see my 2 young children, who were 8 and 10 at the time, to grow up. And thanks to precision medicine, this wish came true. I'm now on my 2nd therapy with no evidence of disease. So if I go through a scanner, you don't see anything for 8.5 years now. So sometimes I think that I'm cured, but I'm not. I have to take my medication every day. The side effects are minor, but they're impactful because I couldn't work anymore because the drugs that I take goes through the blood-brain barrier, and it has some cognitive issues. So for me, I have to write my presentation now in a script, and I was teacher. So the cognitive issues were so severe that I couldn't work anymore. I don't die about it, from it, but it's quite impactful. And if you're going through clinical trials and you have the ECHO score, they start with 3. And we want to have the ECHO score 1 and 2 as well, because they are impactful of the quality of life of the patients. Next slide. Well, this is also not a slide that I made. This is a slide that was made by Jill Veldman. She is another lung cancer patient. And what we always see for medical students as well, we see a care pathway which is quite straightforward. But the lives of patients are so much more complex. What about all the anxieties, the fears, the challenges, the choices? Especially with precision medicine, we have now choice, and it's good, but it's not a choice between A is something very beautiful and doesn't have side effects, and B is very worse. But it's always you have to choose, and you have to make the choice for yourself, what's best for yourself. We are human first and patient second. And thanks to effective treatment options, more people with cancer live longer or have chances of a cure. But the cancer field is more complex, and we need to have guidance and help to go through the complexity of the journey and of the patient. And what we see now is that most of the time the treatment is kind of clinical, and the rest of the patient, and what we see here, the patient is complex, is being left alone, and we need to do it differently. Next slide, please. Luckily, we have social media now, and for patient organizations, it's very important so that they can run surveys amongst their patient groups. And this is on the left side. You see the survey we do for lung cancer patient for Lung Cancer Europe, and it's an annual survey conducted about for all the patients and the caregivers about the most unmet needs. And on the left side, you see, for instance, that we also ask clinicians what they think are the biggest unmet needs. And also patient groups are connecting. Patients discuss the diagnostic and the treatment options that are available in their countries or hospitals, or how to manage side effects and when to seek a second opinion. And we have national and international patient groups, and the information is shared, and disparities cannot be hidden anymore, because it is awful that I have access to a drug that someone 200 kilometers away from me doesn't have access to. And you feel guilty because you have the access and you are staying alive, and you see all the people around you die because of no access to the treatment or access to knowledgeable doctors. It's with the precision medicine, it's the education of doctors as well. Our health is no longer a national issue anymore. We help each other to get the best possible options. Next slide. So what can be done for patients? Well, after a cancer diagnosis, patients rely heavily on their doctors, and often without understanding about molecular testing or even what cancer fully entails. And offering molecular tests as a standard of care would help patients get the right treatment sooner. And with precision oncology, many patients live longer, meaning a holistic approach treatment is essential. Instead of treating only the tumor, the whole person and family should be taken care of. And shared decision making is going to be a crucial part of the process, just because there are now treatment options for a lot of patients. And randomized clinical trials are not possible if you're having a small patient population. And with precision medicine, the subgroups are getting smaller and smaller. So we need to have a different kind of trial. We need to have more real-world evidence also in the process. And we need equal access to small trials, access to molecular testing, access to the best treatment options, and access to the best care. It shouldn't matter where we live or what our socioeconomic status is. Research, precision medicine, has kept me alive for the past 10 years. Imagine the possibilities if everyone had equal access to it. To achieve this, collaboration with all the stakeholders is essential. Thank you very much. And now I give the floor to Dr. Nicola Normano.
Okay, thanks for inviting me to this talk, and thanks to Michael for the very nice, now it's working, very nice, introduction, because actually, for me, I've been trained as a medical oncologist. I spend most of my time doing research on biomarkers, and to meet patients for which we could make the difference is very important also for us to keep really motivation to continue our work. Now, in this brief introductory talk, I will touch a little bit on a few topics. I will try to explain what is precision oncology, why it's important for patients, and which is the possible future evolution of precision oncology, but also to highlight the barriers that we are facing in the implementation of precision oncology. These are my disclosures. And let's start with definition. Okay. Now, tumors are highly heterogeneous at genetic, molecular, and cellular level. I mean, you know that patients that have the same tumor type, breast cancer, colon cancer, lung cancer, might present a completely different response to the same drug. And this is due to the fact that these tumors are highly heterogeneous. Now, in this respect, precision oncology refers to the use of drugs that are expected really to be highly active only in patients that have specific cellular, molecular, or genetic features. And therefore, precision oncology is based on two pillars that are equally important. We need very good drugs, and usually these drugs are targeting mechanisms that are relevant for tumor growth, for proliferation, survival, angiogenesis, and so on. But we need also the cancer biomarkers. The cancer biomarkers are characteristics of the tumor cell that we can measure, so protein level or maybe a mutation, and that really predict the response to specific drugs. Now, we started a few years ago having available only few biomarkers and few precision drugs, but now the field is expanding. Today, approximately 1/3 of patients with advanced cancer may receive a biomarker-associated therapy, and we do expect that this fraction is going to increase in the next few years. And this is the fact that now the vast majority of drugs that is entering clinical trials in oncology is associated with biomarker, is a precision oncology drug. This is some examples of what a precision oncology can do, for example, in non-small cell lung cancer patient. Here in yellow, there is the survival of patient with non-small cell lung cancer, advanced non-small cell lung cancer, treated with chemotherapy. In orange, the survival of patients treated with immunotherapy. And in light blue, there are, specific subgroup of patients who carry genomic alteration, including ROS1 mutation, and when treated with target therapy, they have a very, very long survival. So this is the difference that we can see between the old approach, chemotherapy, and the new approach that is precision oncology. But to understand better, which is the impact of precision oncology, I want to briefly comment these data that are data basically on incidence and survival trends for lung cancer in men and women in the United States. And you see that the incidence of lung cancer, the blue line, declined over time, most likely because of the reduction on the consumption of tobacco smoking. But there is also a reduction of mortality, but starting 2013, 2014, the decline of mortality was faster as compared to the decline of incidence. What happened? 2013, 2014, the first precision oncology drugs became available, and these had a huge impact on survival of patients. But there are also other implications of precision oncology that I want to touch on. I mean, this is what happens now in patients with ovarian cancer, at least in Western countries. We do test all our patients for the presence of alteration in the homologous recombination pathway. This is a pathway involved in the repair, the DNA repair. And we do this because those patients that have a deficiency in the pathway are sensitive to a specific class of drugs, PARP inhibitors. Now, among the different alterations, we identify those patients who have BRCA mutation, actually germinal mutation. Germinal mutation are mutations that are inherited. So basically, these are present in the families, and the families that carry these mutations have a much higher risk to develop ovarian cancer and also breast cancer. And this is what is happening with ovarian cancer today. We see a reduction in the mortality, which is most likely due to the fact that we improve the care. There is an increase in prevalence. There are more women with ovarian cancer still alive because, we can care there. But you see there is also a reduction in the incidence. Did the pathogenesis of ovarian cancer change in the past few years? Maybe, but our interpretation is that by doing this test, we identify those families that carry BRCA mutation, and by preventive surgery, we can reduce the mortality from ovarian cancer. So this is really the power of precision oncology. And when we look at the biomarker and the drug, we should not look only to the cost and the complexity of these, but also to all the possible implications that the introduction of precision oncology has in the health system. What's the future? I don't have time to discuss more, but there are now, if you sequence tumors, you can find in any tumor any type of those that we call actionable alteration, basically the target for our drugs. So this led to the hypothesis that in the future we will not treat any more patients based on histology, but rather on the molecular profile. This, of course, needs to be demonstrated. It's still a research hypothesis. There's a huge difference between the European Medicines Association Agency and FDA in the approval of these drugs, but this is an interesting approach. And what we do expect also is a huge innovation in terms of diagnostics, in particular in liquid biopsy. Today we use liquid biopsy mainly to detect genomic alterations in patients with advanced cancer to target specific mutation with our drugs. But now there are expanded novel fields of application. The first is minimal residual disease. When you get surgery because there is early cancer, still there are some patients in which there are residual tumor cells, and this is associated with a much higher risk of recurrence. By using liquid biopsy, we can identify the patients with high risk of recurrence, in which we can give more, maybe aggressive adjuvant therapy, but also identify the patient with low risk of recurrence, in which we can spare the toxicity of adjuvant therapy. But really the new frontier for liquid biopsy will be the possibility of diagnosis of cancer in very early stage, and maybe also the identification of early change in the tissue before cancer is really formed. We know, that fortunately the transformation of normal cells into tumor cells is a very inefficient process, takes several years and a number of steps. If by using liquid biopsy we'll be able to identify early change in the tissue, we can develop strategies for what is defined cancer interception. Use drugs or change diet or use any other intervention to block the development of cancer before there is full transformation. This is the future, but I don't think it's so far from. Now, it's clear that in this scenario, as we already heard before, the access to biomarkers is essential for the application of precision oncology. There are different approaches that can be used. There is a possibility to use the simple tests that are able to detect a single biomarker for analysis, such as immunohistochemistry, the FISH, the PCR, and so on. Or we can use the next generation sequencing that allow to identify different types of genomic alteration in multiple genes in a single analysis. And there are different guidelines that suggest which are the tumor types in which we should use NGS. But we know that in Europe there is huge limitation in the access to precision medicine and biomarkers. This is a survey the International Coordinator for Pathology made with the FPA and the CPC, and basically what we found is that in many countries there is this limitation in the access to precision medicine for a number of reasons, including the fact that the approval of new drugs and the reimbursement of the test when the test is needed is not connected. So there's a paradoxical situation in many countries in which the drug is available, but the patient cannot access because the biomarker test is not reimbursed. So the patient has to pay, or the pharma company has to pay. There are limitations to the access to single biomarker tests, mainly because the budget is not adequate in most countries, although we have some worrying data also for lung cancer, recent data. And there is a huge limitation in the access to NGS due to insufficient budget, but also the lack of infrastructure, in particular in Eastern European countries, although the situation seems to be solved. Now we identify some barriers, but now with this new project that we recently launched, we want really to better define which are the barriers for the implementation of precision oncology with a focus on low, middle-income countries, and actually we want to propose solutions that will be able to facilitate the uptake of precision oncology. And this is my last slide. Actually, I think that I showed how precision oncology is important today for our patients, the difference that we can make using biomarker testing, the possibility that we will have also to identify individuals at risk, in which we can make really the difference in terms of cancer incidence. However, the access to biomarker testing and precision oncology is really limited in many countries, in Europe, outside Europe. And so I think that we really need a strong action to ensure that all our patients have equal access to the latest technologies for cancer diagnosis and treatment. Thank you for your attention. I'll be happy to take the question during the day. Thanks.
Good morning. And also on behalf of FPA, I'd like to welcome everyone to the conference. My name is Matthijs van Meerveld. I'm representing the FPA Oncology Platform, and I'm also the Global Head of Access Policy and Patient Advocacy with Menarini Stemline. And it's really great to see the high turnout today, and I really would like to thank everybody for joining, those here in the room and the people online as well. If we go to the next slide, I'd like to share a little bit of background on the FPA Oncology Platform. For those of you not familiar with the platform, I'll give you a short introduction. The FPA Oncology Platform unites 20 companies, innovative pharmaceutical companies, and 17 national industry associations. Many of them are here in the room, really united around a common goal to drive better cancer policies across Europe. And our mission is to improve the lives of cancer patients and their caregivers. And we work with the European cancer care community towards a policy environment which fosters continuous innovation, EU competitiveness, as well as timely and broad access to cancer care. Now, as an FPA Oncology Platform, we developed a fact sheet that outlines our thinking on how to advance precision oncology in Europe. And you can see here a QR code that will take you straight to the document. We identified 3 main areas to focus on. I'll walk you through what we believe should be really happening to advance precision oncology in Europe. And you can see on the next slide our draft recommendations, because we are aiming to secure broader stakeholder consensus around these recommendations. And it really starts by raising awareness among patients. And I think Meryl already talked about how important it is that patients are well educated on the treatment and the testing. It's about raising awareness among healthcare professionals. And Dr. Namano already explained really well how rapidly changing the field is. And it's about raising awareness among policymakers and payers. And we have, fortunately, today several representatives from the European Commission, as well as a payer from Italy, really looking forward to their presentations. Then the second recommendation is around investing in infrastructure and workforce to ensure healthcare systems have the capacity to deliver precision oncology. And it's also about ensuring that every hospital has the infrastructure and to equip all regions with the expertise, resources and financial support that they need. And this morning we'll hear from several EU initiatives, as well as the regions that focus, I think, especially also on this important area. And then last but not least, it's really a recommendation around reforming the funding and reimbursement models to foster, I think, much needed alignment between therapies and diagnostics assessment, authorization and reimbursement processes, and also to provide adequate public funding to ensure patients have timely and full access. But it's also about investing in novel health economics models that can demonstrate the true value of precision oncology. And later today we'll also hear from Professor Thielen from the Erasmus University about these new models. And then last but not least, especially this one, is to facilitate partnerships among all stakeholders and sectors. And I think it's especially that multi-stakeholder collaboration that is essential in advancing precision oncology. And we as an FE Oncology platform are very pleased to see the different stakeholders here in the room today. So we can learn from you, and together we can carve out a roadmap for the national, local, regional healthcare authorities and decision makers to help address any barriers that they encounter in their countries. And I really look forward to all the presentations today and to the discussion. Thank you very much.
That's me. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for making the time. This is a very, very intense day of discussion, so be prepared to listen to several outstanding experts on precision oncology. Thank you very much to those who have been setting the scene so far, and I have the privilege to facilitate these and other panels, and also the challenge to catch up on time. As you can tell, we are a bit behind schedule. So without further ado, let me invite the first panelists to the podium here. Kay Dagenwals, Szymon Bielecki, and Simone Boselli. Now, let me also give you a sense of how the day is going to be structured, because there is a sequencing of illustrations that you will certainly have identified on the agenda. Here we have the opportunity to hear directly from policymakers. So there is a session now that will focus on policy leadership at EU level. That's the framework, that's the strategy and the vision which connects with precision oncology, and which will help us also understand how strategically the Commission is helping to implement and to build around Europe's Beating Cancer Plan, which is very familiar to all of you. Then we will move towards collaborative excellence. There will be several experts and representatives of projects which are funded by the European Commission, which will give us even a more concrete sense of what is happening on the ground, again, with regard to precision oncology, in particular, personalized medicine more broadly. Then the next step is about regional implementation, and again, opportunities to hear directly from experts that are working on projects at the regional level, also in connection with EU programs. And lastly, there will be a session on pathways to access. This is more of a roundtable that will focus on some of the issues which have been mentioned by Meryl in particular, about equity, about how to ensure that going forward the barriers, such as financial barriers, can be addressed properly in order to make sure that all those who need an early diagnosis, an appropriate, adequate diagnosis and treatment can have it irrespective of their postal code within Europe. So without further ado, I would like perhaps to kick off the discussion with Kay, who represents DG RTD. I will not make detailed presentations. We've already agreed to that in order to be as efficient as we can in terms of time management. However, Kay is clearly working with one of the strategic leaders or leading groups at EU level, which is the Cancer Mission and the Cancer Mission Board in particular. And perhaps, Kay, you can start giving us a sense of what's on the agenda and what is going to be on the agenda also going forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I work on the Cancer Mission. So just to give you an introduction as to what the Cancer Mission is about and the reason for the Cancer Mission. And as we saw earlier, that cancer is a big challenge, and 2.7 million people in the EU are diagnosed with cancer each year, and that's set to rise. And also there's 1.3 million people die from cancer. And the total cost of cancer in Europe in 2018 was 199 billion, and all of these are set to rise. And then, of course, you had the impact of COVID-19 and the war in Ukraine. So the goal of the Cancer Mission is to improve the lives of more than 3 million people by 2030 through prevention, cure, and for those affected by cancer, including their families, to live longer and better. And we're doing this jointly with the Europe's Beating Cancer Plan. So we have 4 main objectives in the Cancer Mission. There's understanding cancer, prevention and early detection, diagnosis and treatment, and quality of life. And then we also have transversal priorities, and one of these is personalised medicine. We have in order in the next several years, we want to advance the flagship initiatives that we've been working on. And data is essential for the delivery of personalised care. So we've been working on the UNCAN data platform. And this is a platform to support research and understanding of the development and progression of cancer, and it's to improve how cancer develops and progresses. So a blueprint has been published, and there's further funding available for national cancer data nodes and use cases for the platform. But these will take a substantial amount of funding over the next couple of years to develop them further. And then also in the area of quality of life, we have the European Cancer Patient Digital Centre, and this is a data platform that will help patients and survivors to navigate the cancer care pathway. And this also is going to receive further funding, and a blueprint has also been published, and there's funding for a pilot, an information portal pilot for the European Cancer Patient Digital Centre. And this is where patients can share their data for personalised care and research. So the next slide, please. And I've just put here some examples of projects that we have funded in the Cancer Mission. So under prevention and early detection and screening, we have projects to make screening faster, more accurate and more personalised and non-invasive or minimally invasive. And also detecting methodologies, biomarkers and liquid biopsies, and developing early predictor tests. So you have a number of projects there on that you can see on the screen, but that's just an example of some of the projects, because nearly all of the projects in the cancer mission address personalised medicine. And then under treatment optimisation as well, we have developed clinical trials programme. There are 12 projects funded on optimising treatments to advance personalised medicine approaches, putting patients at the centre. And the trials will focus on better quality of life and things like de-escalating radiation treatment, minimally invasive surgery, and so on. So one of the projects that's getting a lot of attention is the Prime Rose project, and this is access to affordable precision cancer medicine that prolongs the life at the best quality possible for all cancer patients. So you can see that a lot of those projects there under the clinical trials are about access to affordable precision cancer medicine, and then the ones under screening, you're looking at minimally invasive, fast, effective, patient-centric screening methods using biomarkers or using blood-based biomarkers. So all of these projects in their projects, they have to have a work package on dissemination, which they will disseminate their findings to citizens and to policymakers, so that people will be aware that there will be blood-based biomarkers available and so on. So just to highlight the other projects that are here, I did mention the European Cancer Patient Digital Centre, but our sister unit in RTD are working on healthcare optimisation and personalisation, and they've set up the European Partnership for Personalised Medicine, which you'll hear about later on. And that's about shaping the future healthcare, including addressing high-burden diseases such as cancer. And then IC PERMED is a global initiative bringing together international research and policy-making organisations to promote and support the advancement of personalised medicine. And then there are two other projects that they are looking after, and there's Bridges and its follow-up BCAS, which are informing the development of risk prediction and prognosis models to be validated in longitudinal cohorts and clinical studies, and they're incorporating these into online tools. And there's also a public procurement project as well, which is acquiring innovation and affordable solutions for optimal next-generation sequencing tests for patients with solid tumours. And then in the Europe's Beating Cancer Plan, there's a joint action on personalised care medicine, and at the moment they have a call for a research project on personalised care medicine, which is closing on the 22nd of January. So this will support the joint action on personalised medicine. So I think there's a lot going on between the Cancer Mission and the other projects in RTD, and we've put in 378 million euros of funding over 3 years for 50 projects in the Cancer Mission. And I think I'll stop there.
Thank you very much indeed. It is really a full agenda. There is a lot happening, and so we trust that precision oncology will continue to be at the top of the agenda of the European Commission also in the years to come. This is perhaps something on which everyone here would like to comment on afterwards. But let's integrate what Kay has illustrated from her angle, from her perspective, with Szymon Bielecki.
I think the sequence is already set, so it will be seen.
Szymon, you want to perhaps give us a sense of what is happening also from DG Connect perspective, which clearly has a lot of fundamental components that enrich the strategic vision and the leadership.
Thank you, Eduardo. Good morning, everybody. You might wonder why DG Connect is involved in this conference, in this action. This is the Director General for Communications, Networks, Content and Technology. That's the full name of DG Connect. And I would like to explain on the basis of this one slide why we are here. So the European Commission is involved in actions related to digital health on several dimensions. And one of the dimensions is data. Data is perceived to be an enabler for further advances on personalized medicine and in medicine in general. on many levels. That's why we work as DG Connect. This is a data department, so to say, of the European Commission, and we support the creation of data infrastructures that will be then enablers, facilitators of research, and then of the translation to healthcare of all the advances of research. That's why I have here prepared a slide I will present to you three elements or three initiatives which we as DG Connect support. The first one is the 1+ Million Genome Initiative, which I have been personally supported and coordinated the support for this initiative for several years. And it started with, I think, very important communication of the Commission in 2018 already, where this importance of data sharing, health data sharing and data infrastructures has been explained. Shortly afterwards, the 1+ Million Genome was created as a member states initiative to enable access to genomic and clinical information across borders. As it happens, the political developments didn't stop, and we had, with the first commission of Ursula von der Leyen, the European data strategy, which outlined the European health data space as one of the data spaces, and also pointed to the importance of artificial intelligence, data sharing, and so on. Then we had the year after the Europe's Beating Cancer Plan, which also includes this dimension of data and personalized medicine. And 22, the European Health Data Space legislative proposal of the Commission. And when you look into the political priorities of the second von der Leyen Commission, you will see that this data dimension and the digital health dimension is gaining prominence, is even more present than in the previous political priorities of the Commission. So there is a momentum, there is a lot of activity around it, and there's also increasing support for sharing data on the policymaker level. The 1+ Million Genome initiative is being implemented with the support of several funding instruments, which range from coordination and support actions to deployment of a data infrastructure called European Genomic Data Infrastructure, funded 20 million from the Digital Europe program, with another 20 million coming from the member states. But there are other related projects on population genomics or on the healthcare uptake of genomics in member states. Currently, the initiative has been joined by almost all member states. This is very short. I will not explain the slide of the roadmap. It's just to let you know that cancer is one of the evident and one of the prominent use cases for the genomic data infrastructure. I would say alongside rare diseases, that is the most advanced and obvious use case for genomic data application. But one of the latest use cases is now also pharmacogenomics, where we also see a potential to support precision oncology. One of the examples of how the use case experts work within the 1+ Million Genome Initiative is the minimal genomic data set for cancer that was agreed within the experts working in the initiative and published in May this year. The purpose of this publication, the purpose of this work, is to increase the harmonization, to improve the harmonization of data and interoperability of the different data sources across Europe, so that those data can be analyzed, can be discovered more easily. Then this initiative and also other initiatives on data, which I'll be presenting, link very much to the European health data space infrastructure and regulation that is now very close to being adopted. And we see their place as among the data sharing infrastructures, this green box more or less in the middle, where the data harmonized, curated in specific domains like genomics could be easily accessible for research, for innovation, but also for healthcare and for policy making purposes. Another initiative which I wanted to shortly explain is the European Cancer Imaging Initiative, also supported by our unit, by the Commission. It builds upon a cluster of Horizon 2020 projects, 5 projects that work on artificial intelligence for oncology, for beating cancer. And these projects have been invited to work together in a cluster and to join forces as there are big complementarities between those. They're actually now finishing, but already before finishing, a cancer imaging initiative was announced, and now the operational arm of this initiative is the so-called UKIM project. It's a project that creates a central platform connecting the different fragmented data sources on cancer imaging. So we are talking here about the imaging biomarkers, like before we had more the genomic biomarkers. And again, here we have a 20 million project under Digital Europe program with another 20 million coming from member states, a project which will establish a platform and will enable artificial intelligence testing, development of models, so that it will increase the availability of data for developing solutions for precision oncology based on imaging. It is to serve research, innovation, but also clinical application in the longer run. Until the end of this project, we can expect around 60 million of annotated cancer images in the platform, coming from at least 100,000 patients. And the platform should facilitate the development of artificial intelligence models. So in principle, the user would be able to bring a model in development to the platform to get the data, which could be synthetic data, but could also be real data, annotated, possibly also including some additional data, like clinical information. And the user could train or develop further the model that they started working on. And as I said, in the longer term, we hope that this platform could also serve direct clinical purposes. Also, this platform would then connect with the European Health Data Space and is one of the flagship projects of Europe's Beating Cancer Plan. And the last initiative, very quickly, is European Virtual Human Twins initiative, which is still in an early phase. But we have, in the Commission, we have realized that there is a large community of experts working on virtual human twin application in healthcare or in biomedical research. And this initiative aims to bring them together to base on the synergies, to foster the collaboration, and to break silos, so to bring different models together, to avoid that everybody is developing something in isolation, and also to pay attention to really respect all the EU values, because we are in the remit of fundamental values, fundamental rights of citizens. And the final element would then be to build a platform. An example of application or support for application for virtual human twins is a project Certainty, now specifically on precision oncology, which I wanted to mention. So the virtual human twin is becoming reality also in this area. And this is my last slide. It's just an invitation for you as community to also look into the website of Virtual Human Twins, where there is a manifesto, a document already signed by some of the FPA members, but it's open to everybody, all kind of stakeholders, to support the creation of a platform and the community for developing further the Virtual Human Twin. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Shimon. This is really an exciting work plan. There are critical components of precision oncology. You've illustrated the genomics part, the imaging initiative, which is truly visionary, and it can be one of those leadership elements and examples that put the European Union and its member states ahead in terms of implementation of precision oncology. Let's also hear from another perspective. DG Reform, Simone Boselli. Good morning, Simone. DG Reform has got a mandate which focuses primarily on providing technical assistance and capacity building to member states. And also, from your perspective, there is an integral part of work which can assist the implementation of precision oncology.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Eduardo. Thank you very much for the invitation here. Indeed, DG Reform, or the Director General for Structural Reform Support, is very key, or at least in the last 6 months that I've been in the European Commissions, to implement reform and structural reform also in the area of healthcare, in order to support the foundation of precision oncology and oncology care more in general. In the interest of time, I will try to also, and allow me, to present these, our projects in the areas of reform in healthcare. I will try to be very brief and talk about the feature of our main tool that is used to support the development of reform in member states, the technical support instruments, which provides tailor-made technical expertise to EU member states to design and implement reform aligned with European policies, such as the European Beating Cancer Plan, but also aligned with common interest in member states. It's demand-driven and does not require any co-financing from member states, and that's why we are very popular in this, because there is no additional financing required. It covers a wide range of reform areas in any reform phase at any level, national, regional and local, including the outermost region. And it has an over 850 million budget for the period 2021-2027. The type of technical supports vary dramatically, but it help beneficiary authorities at all levels to design the different components of the various reform. And in the last 3 years, we have supported 780 projects, contributing to close to 1,200 reforms in 27 member states. It works. At the moment, we are in a very busy period of time assessing the requests that have come in from the member states up until the beginning of next year. And ultimately, we will provide directly expertise through the services of the European Commission where possible, or provide indirect provision by procuring the expertise, whether this is from the international organization, member states expertise, or the private sector. In the area of health, we have a number of, or the overall unit working on labour, social, education, skills and health. We have a number of projects, 34 that we're currently looking at, including projects that have a multi-country component. And in particular, and not to show off here, but just to show you the breadth of the number of projects that we are supporting, we're looking at the whole spectrum of health system strengthening, if you wish, and in particularly in the area of public health, where we include cancer care, and in the areas of genomics, we have supported several projects. In particular, we have helped the implementation, and that's very important to complete our mission. We have supported Italy, Romania and Slovakia to implement EU colorectal cancer screening guidelines within the screening programs, and specifically In Italy, we supported in 4 region clinicians and managers to provide capacity strengthening, to develop and test sound methodologies for colorectal cancer screening, in the period 2018-2021. In Romania, national experts were trained and to design effective screening programs. And in Slovakia, national authorities were supported by the implementation of screening registry with fully operational procedures. And furthermore, we have supported projects in the area of genomics, for supporting Germany in designing their integration of genomics into healthcare system. And similarly, we have completed early in August this year, a similar project in Portugal, where we supported the national authority to develop a strategy for genomic medicine, looking at all of the different aspects that Shimon also indicated, particularly when it's in relation to data, ethics, stakeholder involvement, and so on and so forth, all the way down to communicating to the broader public the impact of genomic. And finally, we have supported in the last couple of years both Latvia and Slovakia in improving their cancer screening and care coordinated approach. As we enter the final stretches for the TSI 2025 cycle, I'm glad to report that a number of new requests are focusing again on cancer screening and improving and implementing both new screening methodologies, as well as evaluating existing screening approaches, which will ultimately, as indicated earlier on, the support to the implementation of precision oncologies within the health system. We also have project requests that focus on personalized and precision medicine, including cancer care, or even the effectiveness of clinical trials, clinical evaluation of clinical trials, which are all components of what a good functioning ecosystem for precision oncology should be. I would like to thank you very much for the attention, and here are a few lines where you can find additional information on what we can provide and support. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Simone. Really helpful, because this really shows how comprehensive the approach is from the entire spectrum of activities of the European Commission. I'm sure that we could dwell more into details. However, I did not mention yet that there is an opportunity to interact with the panel and amongst ourselves through a Slido opportunity. There you go. Here you see it. You know how it works. I think we have to go to the online version of Slido. So hold on a second, and you will see, here it is, the code that you can look at with your telephone and try to answer this straightforward question. How could EU policies support member states in implementing precision oncology? Here, I suppose that it's just a sort of game amongst us, because all of the elements are important. Facilitating dialogue and cross-border collaboration, funding for research and development, raising awareness, harnessing the value of data are the questions. And the winner is, and then perhaps 1 minute for everyone to comment on the results, if that's okay for everyone. All right? Okay, there is something I'm missing here. PO. Yeah, that I got, but facilitating dialogue. No, that's not the winner. Stop. Executive decision. No more votes.
50-55 is good. It's very good.
supporting workforce and infrastructure in the member states to implement precision oncology. Oh, workforce and infrastructure. Simone, you have to go first.
I'm afraid that was just because I was the last presentation. I suppose that is why it's influencing the data and the bias in this very small survey. But yes, healthcare workforce is a clear priority across member states, or the shortage of qualified workforce. One of the key drivers of WHO work, and Dr. Hans Kluge at the WHO Europe level, and we are seeing also requests in these areas across countries. And I think it is clear from the implementation work that we're trying to support member states with, that the critical components are qualified healthcare workforce, good streamlined pathways, and the availability of this information for the public. One thing that I would like also to underline here, and that was one of the questions, we tried with this project to foster as much as possible stakeholder involvement in the reform projects, because the clear success of any reform is with a broad and early support of all people that will be affected by this reform.
Thanks a lot, Simone. Infrastructure. You were also illustrating the UKIME model. Is this going to be part of the infrastructure that, as you were illustrating, in connection with the health data space, will ensure that certain information is available across member states?
Yes, so of course, as I mentioned, all the three initiatives which we are supporting, they all will eventually connect to the European health data space, so that all kinds of data can be leveraged at the same time. But I would like to come back briefly to the results of the Slido, where you mentioned, I think the first position, or the first point was workforce and infrastructure. But there was also an option for harnessing the potential of data. And these two I could link by saying that it's extremely important to invest in workforce, not only in terms of the medical skills or the content skills, but also in digital skills of healthcare professionals. It is because we have to, they will be the main users of the future instruments, of the future tools that we are building, but they also have this critical role of explaining to patients what these tools do, and also, which is not mentioned, by the way, in the FPR fact sheet, it's also important to explain to citizens why the data sharing is so important. So why the people that have no disease, are not yet cancer patients, why it's so important that they also share the data to the community, to the research community. So the role of healthcare professionals is immense here, and I would really like to underline the role of digital skills.
That is absolutely making sense, and it's fundamental. We talk about literacy, digital literacy, beyond cancer health literacy per se. Kay, last but not least, from your perspective, and what would you think that of all the results we've seen here fits with the agenda of the Cancer Mission Board?
Well, I think the main one is that the Cancer Mission is about research, so we will continue to fund research in precision medicine, but also the policies that enable the precision oncology, that they're successfully implemented. And we have these two flagship initiatives, which is about sharing data as well, and one is for sharing data with patients, share their data to improve their quality of life. And again, to highlight that this is important, that they can share it in a secure way, and that it will help them if they share their data, that the clinicians can see their data, and it will help them in their cancer care, or even if into the future as well. So I think and also the answer they got most it got the highest score, and I think that the Europe's Beating Cancer Plan, which it does look at the healthcare and the staffing of the healthcare, and also the education and training, which is very important for precision oncology, because many clinicians and healthcare professionals may not be aware of the advances or may not be happy to use them just yet. So I think on that side, that'll be important. The funding that comes from the Europe's Beating Cancer Plan as well.
Thanks a million, and a big round of applause to our colleagues and experts, Kay, Simon and Simone, because I think this is really a way to illustrate how the EU is having a leadership in precision oncology. And what reassures me also is that there is ongoing work for the next several years. I've seen, up to 2027, at least many of the programs which you have illustrated. And therefore, I think there is still scope for collaboration and for ensuring that precision oncology stays high on the agenda across the member states and, of course, at EU level. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We can swiftly now move to the next panel. And the next panel will look at collaborative excellence. So, as I was saying at the very beginning, there is a sequencing of sessions that we are trying to follow, starting from the policy framework, good part of which has been illustrated by the European Commission. Now we are going to move into specific programs which are literally focusing and addressing some of the challenges related to precision oncology. So let me welcome here Jolien Rovers, Professor Hans Gelderblom, Mark van den Bulke, and Hélène Antoine Poirel. All of these distinguished experts are leading or actively contributing to different programs, which they will illustrate, albeit briefly, given the nature of what they are doing and given the complexity of the subjects that we are trying to address here. Okay. It works?
It works.
Fantastic. Jolien, we'll go first with you, and the program that you are going to describe is called EP-PERMED. What is that?
So, good morning, everybody. I'm Jolien Rovers. I work for the Flemish government, Department of Economy, Science and Innovation, but here I speak on behalf of EP-PERMED, the European Partnership for Personalized Medicine, where I'm the lead of the work package on innovation. So EP-PERMED is a coordination platform. It brings together 58 national and regional ministries and funding agencies to invest, to put resources together to invest in personalized medicine and to implement the strategic research and innovation agenda that they have developed. Also, the European Commission is a partner and tops up 30% of the budget that is pulled by the member states and the partners. And in total, we have 9 more years, so we're at the end of our first year. In total, we had 10 years to implement the program. What we do, I have a brief overview on the slide. So, of course, we have our joint transnational calls, which is a big part of the work we do. that are organized nationally. We also are developing other type of calls aiming at the higher technology readiness levels, really going after the proof of concept and towards startups and SMEs. Of course, we also try to educate and disseminate information about personalized medicine. We collect best practice examples. We organize in situ visits at interesting sites across Europe. We have a podcast to inform the broad audience. We also try to guide people, investors, researchers, policymakers to existing offers and opportunities across Europe to raise awareness of what is already existing out there. And we try to work together to connect different people in the ecosystem, also to work together with other partnerships and initiatives, and so on. So I think this is just very briefly what we do. But if there are other questions, of course, we can discuss later.
For sure, for sure. Thank you very much, Yulin. And you see, the questions which we are trying to address here are threefold. One, what's the value added that these kind of projects bring to member states, to patients, and to precision oncology more specifically? Also, what is the impact that you would anticipate for these projects? Perhaps if we now move on to you, Professor Gelderblom, the program that you are coordinating is particularly focused on precision cancer. And there are several aspects that have got to do with clinical trials, with the preparation, perhaps the setup of a number of activities that will have a favorable impact, a valuable impact in the implementation of precision oncology. Can you please describe for us PCM for EU?
I can do that. I even made a presentation for you. So, thank you. Well, thanks for the invitation. Good morning, everyone. I'm a medical oncologist, and well, the background I think we can skip mostly, but what didn't get a lot of emphasis is maybe that actually precision medicine can save lives. If you look at pharmacogenomics and DPD genotyping before 5FU administration, which is not completely implemented in Europe yet, can save thousands of lives. And we can also save costs because based on the molecular profile, you can decide not to give expensive chemotherapy drugs. So that's the other side that had not been discussed today. So it's clear to me that a combined effort is needed in the EU because a larger scale can reach quicker results, and it's good for everyone, including pharma and in the end, the patients. So what went before PCM for EU? We started 10 years ago in the Netherlands, a nationwide trial, because we realized with the better diagnostics that many patients had a druggable mutation but no access to personalized cancer medicine. And so we worked together with a lot of people, including pharma, to get the drugs and to match that with the profile of the patient that had no other treatment options. We have 3 stages in the trial. Stage 1 is a signal seeking, 8 patients. If one has a response, and you go to the second stage and you include another 24 patients. And alongside you do whole genome sequencing, so you better understand who is responding and who is not responding. So you can make the profile a bit better if you have less than 5 responses, and go again to stage 1 and stage 2. You can see that on the left lower hand side. But if you have a success in the 24 plus 8 patients, then we have a risk sharing agreement with the payers that after 4 months of treatment, the insurance companies takes over the payment for the treatment, and alongside you collect the data. And this has led to the reimbursement of nivolumab in the Netherlands for MSI-positive tumor. It's quite unique outside the EMA label, but this is the way we want to go forward. So we shared our protocol and our CRFs with any country that would like to have it, and the Scandinavian countries were the first to join in. And based on this excellent collaboration, we embarked on this PCM for EU project, where we wanted also to have lower and middle income countries to have access to our platform. So there are many work packages, and I'll come back to the results or the intermediate results of all these work packages. So these were the countries. You can see predominantly northern, but also a lot of middle and southern European countries. So what we did, we first set the stage for a basis to do a good pan-European collaboration. So we made white papers on what diagnostics to do, what clinical decision support systems, how to do it, how to implement molecular tumor boards, how to put on the infrastructure needed to do these trials. And again, I've heard this morning, education is key to have an understanding of what the value of this is and how to implement it. Another important thing is that one of the aims was to expand the number of countries using this network. And you can see on this map that the Baltic states, Portugal, UK, Ireland, France changed their trial, and Madrid and Barcelona regions and Berlin are also coming by. So we're expanding our network, and we hope Poland will join as well as soon as possible. From there on, we went to a more implementation program called Primrose. And if you go alongside the work packages 1, we made using OMOP a shared database and curated and to combine the cohorts that were already there. In work package 2, and that's quite unique, we have a lot of databases with annotated clinical data and genomic data, and we could use that we will use that as external controls to these single-arm trials, which is important. Work package 3, we will do more and more expansion cohorts. I mentioned nivolumab for MSI, but we will do olaparib for BRCA-mutated pan-tumor cohort. And then work package 4 is quite new. We have a system in place in the Netherlands to systemically treat patients off-label and early access and collect data. And we want to do that also in a European level. Health economics is important. The EMA is on board. And social innovation, including patients as our main advisors, is very important. And I'm happy to say that the quality of life is now part of the trial, which is very logical. Work package 7, 8, and 9 are quite standard. So in conclusion, the drug-like clinical trials offer a European precision cancer medicine implementation network with a multi-stakeholder setup, a decentralized organization, so we believe in the national or regional cooperation, but we independently put that together. That's the way it works at best. And it's quite pragmatic. We want to do this stage 3 risk-sharing agreements more and more, even maybe for ultra-rare things in the second stage. And we want to advance clinical genomic profiling, and then the control cohorts that I discussed. Thank you very much.
Thanks a million, Hans, for this very comprehensive illustration. Both of these projects are actually critical, I have the impression, in bringing together also the different partners. Perhaps another point which you may all want to address is not only the added value, but also the complexity of working with 24 partners in 17 countries, etc., and making sure that there is nonetheless an aligned output on these various work packages. I think this is part of the beauty of European projects at large.
I think Europe is a nice place to do that. Somebody asked in the app whether we work together with the US. We developed a drug trial together with the US with the plan to share the data, but it's been quite difficult for legal and other reasons to combine. I don't say it's impossible, but on a European basis it works quite easy, I would say.
Thank you. Let me turn to Mark van den Bulke then. Mark, you are involved in numerous European projects, and today the focus is on one project which is called CanHeal, which has got to do with genomics. Obviously, this is closely connected with the subject matter of today. Can you perhaps also expand and give us a sense, as I was saying at the beginning, of what impact is expected going forward from the results that will originate from CanHeal?
Yeah, thank you very much, Eduardo, and giving us the opportunity to explain not only CanHeal, but maybe also the whole ecosystem that Sensano has embarked in the EBCP. So when the EBCP was launched, we discussed with our authorities, and they were giving us the possibility to really invest a lot of time into the implementation of EBCP in Belgium, which also led to the commitment of Sensano into many coordination of activities. One of them is CanHeal, but this is an overview of all the projects that we are involved in that are directly linked to personalized medicine. And we started to make already a bit of a roadmap, because each of these projects will give a certain output, which is considerable and important for the for the personalized medicine implementation. And Sensano will try to make a little bit the bridge now between all these initiatives for Belgium, but maybe also for helping the European projects. Now, if we come to CanHeal, CanHeal was launched as a response to one of the flagships of the EBCP, where there were two arms. One was more on the population level, one was more on the clinical level. We started discussions with a large group, you say 24 partners, I think we are 45 partners in 17 countries. And we came to the idea that we should merge the two proposals in one and work with two arms. One is more driven to the population, one is more driven to the clinic, but we have to bridge between the two, because one is more on prevention, diagnosis, treatments. We want to break the silos. We work bottom up with use cases, and then came top down with a structure. I'm not going to explain that, it's too difficult, but we were already 14 work packages, criticized that it will be too difficult to work together. I must say it worked very well. We have a very strong collaboration between all the work packages, and we would like to continue to work in that work, because that seems to work. A lot of things came out of CanHeal, the molecular tumor boards. We have some guidelines. We will combine now with ESMO guidelines with the ones from EU Can Serve. So liquid biopsy, rules for liquid biopsy, technical aspects of liquid biopsy, training on oncogenomics, on personalized medicine. We came to a joint GDPR approach in several institutes to share data, lots of discussions. At the moment, I think we were 15 institutes, and we would come to 62 contracts to make it happen. That is a little bit hallucinant, that cannot continue. And then literacy. So that's CanHeal. And then in parallel, and I think Kay, you already mentioned it, we are also coordinating an activity on procurement, on developing, let's say, a sustainable, so a cheap, comprehensive gene profiling platform, from going from the DNA, RNA, till the interpretation of the results at a variant level, completely harmonized. I must say, yesterday we received the offers for the third phase, so there is still 3 companies in the running. We do the evaluation next week in Barcelona, and we hope that 2 will be able to go into the last phase. So Soon we will have 2 of these solutions that are also, and it was indicated we should work towards the countries who have less access to diagnostics and drugs. This is an opportunity of giving this to the people. And Hans has indicated a DRIP trial, so there's a new opportunity coming up. There's a new joint action launched where practically all member states are participating. Now we are not anymore with 54 partners, we are 120 partners. There are 186 partners in the UNSCC, which is the hospital network that we would like to make. So there will be a lot of collaboration needed in the coming 5 years. I'm making a slide now for the joint action personalized medicine, and in 25, 26, 27, we will need a huge activity of making all these links now between all these projects, trying to also align these projects, which probably will need a lot of discussions with the people from the Commission because the timing may not always be right, so we have to see how we can do that. We will discuss a lot on things that are implementable, but we will also see that there are things that still need research. So then we will turn back probably to the partnership and see whether there are opportunities to fill gaps that we identify to bring forward personalized medicine through the partnerships. And then, of course, all these regulations are appearing. You have the GDPR that everybody is already aware of, but the European Health Data Space to share the data has also rules, so we have to implement them. IVDR will one day appear. Some of the diagnostics will fall under that. If we do whatever, let's say, proposition of treatments, that will be a Medical Device Act. So you will fall under the Medical Device Act. And everybody wants to use AI, so we will fall under the AI Act. So all this legislation you will have to meet in one solution. And that's where we are now investing and looking at what they call the regulatory sandboxes, where you can explore a little bit how you can facilitate the regulatory aspects of all these initiatives. And then the last thing is, I think, if you have an overview of what happened in the last years, and I think Dorota said it were the fat years that we had now. I hope it's not true. I hope we continue on investing a lot at the EU level in health. It may be not as much in cancer, but at least in health. But what we learn is that it's a spiral that you create. It starts with limited, and then it's growing, growing, growing. And the main thing is this red arrow. What we do not really have for the moment is an overarching body that is a little bit bringing things together, because you have a lot of elements. We saw the people from the Commission, and it was DG Santé, DG RTD, DG Connect, DG Reform. The same organizations exist in each country, and maybe even more, because in countries sometimes it's split over federal and regional, so it makes it even more complex. So this arrow is a little bit what we now have to learn in the coming 5 years. But the real thing that happened in all the years that Europe has been investing in cancer is that you create really a community of people that are used to work together. And that is, Hans, I think, what is the difference with the United States. We are really becoming a community much more than you have in the United States, which are much more in competition than we are.
Mark, always crystal clear. Thank you very much. But also with these positive comments that you are sharing with all of us, the collaborative efforts are creating a community, really, a community of practice, a community of research, and so on and so forth. And this is the added value. It is an impact, a positive impact in itself, let alone the specific example that you were giving about onco-NGS and the affordable diagnostic tools that will emerge from it. There is also another dimension which you both have illustrated, and it's the interconnectivity that emerges more and more from all these various European initiatives. So that is really positive to hear. And of course, we all trust and hope that investments will be made for the things that do good to people as opposed to do harm to people. And you know what we are all thinking about, unfortunately, these days. Hélène, now you are part of the joint action called JANE, the network of expertise. And that is the reason why we thought that at the end of this journey across various projects, perhaps the joint action and the network of expertise could really provide a sort of framework also going forward. Can you tell us whether these connectivities really exist? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. It will be with pleasure. So, as you mentioned, so with JANE is joint action. So it's a direct grant to member states, which aim to implement network of expertise in seven fields of cancer area, which are identified as having some unmet needs. So you can see that for the complex and poor prognosis cancers, the palliative care, survivorship, personalized prevention, omics technology, high-tech medical resources, and also the young population of adolescents and young adults. So this is different from the ERNs, which focus more on rare cancers, but it is relatively close. And so I will focus more on omic technologies, even though the other networks are also important for precision oncology, but I would say more indirectly. Omic technology, we are also leading this network. So it comes from a previous joint action who was preparing, and now we were in the phase of implementing this network. So it starts just now, at the beginning of the month of November. So you are all aware of omics, which are large-scale data collection and analysis of biological molecules. It started with genomics in the early 2000s. It has been extending to other biological molecules. The complexity has been added with multi-layers of omics data and using more and more of artificial intelligence. Also analysis in linked single cell on cell-free DNA. And so the challenges are quite high because of this quite evolving field, because of the unequal access across Europe, and also it has been already mentioned because of the complexity of the legal landscape in Europe. So the scope of this network is to improve the rapid integration of these innovative omics in all European healthcare systems, so to improve the clinical decision making in the field of the precision oncology. And that at the different cancer patient journey, from before being cancer patient, so the prediction, at the early diagnostic phase, during the treatment, not only the curative, but also the supportive treatment, as well as in the follow-up. So it aims to provide an equal access to all European citizens to high-quality services in a flexible and sustainable manner. How it is organized? So it relies on 4 pillars, so 4 main activities. We have already identified that there are some needs. So regarding omics technical and clinical support, mostly providing some guidelines, the legal and ethical, addressing the legal and ethical issues, also developing a training center, and last but not least, to develop synergies with existing initiatives, which is really important, and especially to try to develop or to link with a matchmaking platform to put together all the partners, the private sector, but academic, with academic and researchers. How to do that? We propose to organize expert consultations in different domains of omics. We classify them according to their clinical readiness, from standard of care to clinical research, translational research, and also the integrated omics. So it means more I would say the wet lab, the IT tools needed to analyze complex omic data, so that they provide, they analyze the unmet needs and prioritize what has to be done in the different pillars. And so I mentioned the synergies, which are really important, and it's really now that we have presented a lot of different projects, and we are now in a European ecosystem where we need to make some synergies to fill the gaps and to rely on existing projects. And for example, also comprehensive cancer infrastructure is also important, and will be the use case, the place where this network will take place, but will also support the initiatives. It was mentioned, for example, the joint action on cancer precision personalized medicine. It's important that this network supports the implementation of this precision medicine. And it will be all in collaboration with international scientific societies. The European official bodies like EMA and EUNET HTA are really important. The national and regional decision-making bodies are really important to make it sustainable and to fund these activities. Rely also on the European lifestyle, life science infrastructures such as Elixir, BBMRI, EIT Health. The private sector is really crucial to support the development of these innovative omics. And last but not least, the patient advocacy groups. We have to learn to work together, and so that they provide their input to help us to also prioritize what is really important. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And it's really a multi-stakeholder collaboration here, which certainly demonstrates the spirit that the joint action has. I am still wondering about the complexity of aligning everyone, but that's, again, the beauty of Europe and the importance of Europe. Let's do the final poll before we break for coffee. So if we can have the Slido on the screen. Here the question is, what should future projects or initiatives focus on at EU level? And once again, it's just for the sake of polling the participants here and see what, in your opinion, should be, could be one of the most relevant way to accelerate the implementation of precision oncology across member states. Here we go. Another 10 seconds. And then we can declare the winner. And then I will, perhaps, Yolene, start with you, just to comment on what you think here and what, irrespective of the result, let's say, what you think is particularly critical as part of the EP-PERMED, of the partnership. All right, so stop enhanced omic testing networks, brackets genomic, that's, you remember this discussion, which we had. It's the winner. So the omic testing networks, in your opinion, are those that really make the difference. And second, we have sharing of good practice and knowledge on precision oncology across member states. So perhaps you want to get in on these couple of thoughts.
Yes, thank you. Definitely very important topics that were selected, I think. With regards to research and innovation, of course, EP-PERMED is trying to share these good practices, bring together researchers, innovators, policymakers to translate what is going on in the research fields, also educate people about the latest state of the art And I think it's very important also to do it at a European level, also involving the regions. I think that's very important because they often have the capacity to implement best practices. So I think very important.
Thanks a million, Yolene. Thank you. Hans, perhaps you also want to comment on, not only on the results, but on these various elements that appear here, perhaps in particular the sharing of knowledge, good practice, and on omics.
Yeah, the fifth option is all four. So I would say all four are important. I think the one that had the lowest percentage, that's something that's maybe already in place, that the regulations, how to share data, we have these standards that we use. But in my view, scaling up is so important, because otherwise you lag behind and you cannot get access to these innovative drugs that are needed to advance treatment for patients. So it takes too long if you do it on your own. So there's a saying, if you want to go, etc., you hear that all the time. If you want to go far, you have to go together, something like that. You know better than me. But that's all point 1, 2, 3 together. So I would say that.
Thank you. Mark?
I must say I get along very well with Hans. I had the same opinion that the first three are all together. But I'm a bit surprised at the last one, which, if I talk with many people, this is the main hurdle. Data sharing is something that's blocking us everywhere. And here it's a little bit lower than the rest, although maybe we should say, Hans, they're all four very important. And there is no real distinction between the four. It's just, I think if we do this pool 3 times, we get more or less probably similar things. So I think they're all four very important. And I also think if we are together now preparing the new joint action personalized medicine, all these elements are taking aboard. So I think we are at least in line with what you people are thinking is important. So.
Thank you very much. So we are in line, and perhaps the new joint action also will have to make sure that all the work that you have undertaken is going to be interconnected, right?
Yeah, definitely. I agree with the previous speakers. And I think maybe I would add that the cross-country collaboration should be not only on research and development, but also in the healthcare, and it's what we try to implement in the joint actions. Yeah, definitely. I think the legal issues are really critical. And when we made during the preparation of the chain, consultation of different use cases, the first point which was raised as a need for the network of expertise was to address the legal issues and to try to find some harmonization. So it was mentioned the proposal of the sandbox. I think we need to work on that at the European level. And the last comment, I think maybe you have a bias with the last presenter who has more impact than because if we see the survey, but yeah, we will see in the different surveys later that if the last speaker will have more input.
Thank you, and thank you all for the comments, for instance, regarding the data privacy and security standards. I think they are paramount to everyone. I also think that, as Dorota was saying at the very beginning of the morning, there is nevertheless an interest and an intention of European citizens to contribute to something that can facilitate and accelerate also good healthcare. At the same time, and I will leave it here, I fear that this issue can become a politicized issue, albeit manipulated, in the sense that data privacy becomes something that sticks with sovereignty and sticks with, the silos that some want to still create across Europe. So that's my personal take, but I leave everyone to the coffee break, and I would like really to thank all the panelists here. Please, a big round of applause to our experts, and thank you very much for making the time to share your experience with everyone. Thank you. Coffee break. Thank you very much.
You lost your name.
Oh,
I know.
Okay, almost.
You lost.
Please take it as a personal consideration I was part of the discussion recently. It's the populist nationalist parties that say, similar to the Novax debate, health data, no sharing. That's no sharing. So, what about a health data sort of new wave of brilliant minds
Excellent. So if I can also ask the colleagues to go back to their very comfortable seats. I know that coffee is also comfortable, but let's go back to the seat so we can start with a good possible, like 20 minutes delay, which is, I think, quite fine. All right. Well, I'm happy to introduce the second part of the meeting. After the break, I'm Michele Calabrò, the director of Euriga. We are one of the partners in today's event, and we're very happy to have had the chance. We are a network of regional and local health authorities from across Europe, including the colleagues that are the regions from the colleagues that are sitting next to me and that will come later. We work a lot with the Committee of the Regions, so it was also great to have the great introduction from Dorota before. And of course, for us, cancer is a big topic, and precision oncology is one of the things that we want to work even more on. But for today, actually, for this session, we'll be looking indeed at what's happening, how precision oncology is already implemented, and which initiatives are happening across European regions. And we have, let's say, two regional champions and success stories here with me today. We'll have on my left Robert Fabregat Fuentes, Director General at BioCat, and project coordinator of the Preciseu, right? Project, and to my right, Cosmin Ceuca from the Brussels office representatives for the Northeast Regional Development Agency in Romania. So we'll start with Robert. Robert, the floor is yours, and you have the clicker.
Okay, thank you so much, Michele. As he said, I'm the CEO of BioCat. BioCat is a public-private foundation located in Barcelona. We aim to make faster the arrival of the innovation to patients by promoting the bioregion of Catalonia. And it's something that I think that we will talk today. We'll speak about it today, that we try to have this local vision, but at the same time, this global perspective, and for that reason, we are also aligned with both the Spanish and European strategies. I will focus today in a case, in a success case that is, as Michele said, we call in Catalan Preciseu, but you can say Preciseu, that I think that is easier for you. But Preciseu is an initiative that was chosen as one of the 5 winning projects in the first competitive regional innovation valleys call of the European Innovation Ecosystems. Basically, this project is aware of challenges and barriers for personalized medicine's full integration into the healthcare systems, and aims to be a driving force to address the main challenge of personalized medicine based on the European strategies, but facing them, as I said before, from the perspective of the regional entities. But we want, of course, contribute to the alignment of the national and European policies. At the same time, we consider that this is a unique opportunity for Europe to lead the path from this regional vision. And in the case of Preciseu, we also had the opportunity to engage Ukraine in networks of innovative hubs for a shared future of reconstruction for the country after the war. This is a general plan of the project. The focus of this project is to analyze the landscapes and policies from several angles, and considering major challenges that we have, that our colleagues presented in the previous roundtables. As you said, on health data, on the development of these advanced therapies, ATMPs, on market access, also on these public-private collaborations between the public administration and industry, also facing the ethical and legal issues, also talking about training and education. And the most important objective of this project is to accelerate the adoption of these therapies, of these solutions at European level, trying to reduce the fragmentation and inequities across Europe, and supporting the implementation, considering that the countries are diverse, that we have different levels of innovation ecosystems, but also different maturity of our healthcare systems. So we try not to construct this equity at the different level of the regions. No, the methodology of the project will be implemented in 2 phases. It's a 5-year project. There is a part that is the coordination support action between the partners. It's the part mainly on the left that will include mapping, aligning of agenda, sharing resources between the different regions, transferring knowledge, connecting the regions, and also complementing other programs, initiatives at European level, but also, and it's an important part of the project, there is a financial support for innovation actions that will have an open call on 2 main topics, health data and ATMPs, and there will be funding for 4 projects that will be selected by next year. This is a picture of the consortium of PreciseU. As you can see here, PreciseU represents 25 different partners from 12 regions in Europe, belonging to 10 member states, and there is, as I said before, 1 associated country that is Ukraine. The consortium includes regional authorities, also healthcare and deep tech clusters, research infrastructures, not only at local level but also at the European level, such as the Barcelona Supercomputing Center, that is one of the most important supercomputers funded by Europe. We also include the industry players and also the view of the patients and entrepreneurial networks. And here is a summary of the concept of PreciseU. As you can see, the project is in the middle, but as you can see at the below at the slide, what we try to do is to reduce this fragmentation and inequities between the regions, trying to drive and collaborate to the implementation of the European strategies, making faster the access to the market and to the patients, connecting the stakeholders, putting the focus on personalized medicine as a main driver for the transformation of the healthcare, of the public healthcare systems. Also, training and creating pedagogy not only for professionals and for citizens, but also for policymakers. It's very important for them to understand what this can transform the healthcare systems, and of course also addressing the difficulties that we have to share the data at European level. We, as you said before, our colleagues on the European health data space, this kind of main challenge, and at the end, as I said before, this call to finance the support for 4 projects. And finally, my last slide is this is the planning. The project started on last July. During these months and during the, I think, half of the next year, we will finish the preparation of these calls. We are trying that to be sure that these calls complement other European calls that we have. We do not want to make the same. We want to make different things and also to finance these projects in the final steps close to the patients. But also, we will develop these different innovation support programs, hackathons, conferences, also events linked to the different European presidencies, mapping the gaps, the difference between the regions, and at the end, as I said before, trying to transform the healthcare systems, considering and taking into account the results, and the transformation that the personalized medicine can give us. And at the end, the project will finish on 2029, and we for sure we evaluate the impact of these tools. And if you have any questions additional to this, you can ask my colleague Maria Cejas, which is the project manager of this project, and that's all.
Thanks a lot for for the great introduction about the project that indeed in the coming years it's going to definitely drive the agenda on the topic, and then also as Eureka, albeit we're not directly part of it, we'll definitely be happy to support in the activities that we'll do. But I'll now come to Cosmin. Cosmin, I think you will also have some slides for us, indeed from the Office of Northeast Regional Development Agencies. So I'll give you the floor and the clicker.
Thank you. I am here today on behalf of my colleague Alina Capitanu, who caught the flu and could not make it for the meeting today. So she is responsible for the projects that I will talk about. So if you have questions, please address her the questions. Okay. I am working for the Regional Development Agency Northeast Romania. We have an office in Brussels. And for today, I'm going to talk about our region and what we have done in the field of precision medicine. So Northeast RDA managed to create about 12 years ago a cluster called Imago Mall, and this cluster is successfully connecting regional healthcare ecosystems to national and international groups, projects, and initiatives. Imago Mall is a member of the Council of European Bioregions, as well as an ecosystem part of ECH Alliance. In our regional smart specialization strategy in the northeast region of Romania, health was identified as one of the 6 S3 sectors. And in more detail, several niches were identified in the health sectors, such as e-health, precision medicine, preventive medicine, medical and pharmaceutical biotechnologies, and biosafety. Furthermore, we are in contact with the S3 Partnership for Personalized Medicine, as well as leading the Vanguard initiative as chair and participating as a region in the Smart Health Personalized Medicine pilot. And we were also selected as a regional innovation valley in the field of health. This initiative started with a FP7 project back in 2012 called AMI for Europe, Advanced Medical Imaging. And since then, Northeast RDA and Imago Mall managed to facilitate the health ecosystem in our region and at national level by getting together at first 5 members: the Medical University, the Emergency Hospital, Regional Oncological Institute, and the software company, all based in Iași, Romania. And this cluster developed to have more than 75 members to this day, and being involved in a lot of projects. Now I would like to focus a bit on the meta-cluster, MedicNest meta-cluster in precision medicine, established this year, to which Imago Mall was a founding member. MedicNest is a European cluster partnership for excellence selected under the COSME program. And it is a voluntary alliance of EU clusters and businesses supporting organizations strongly believing in the role of intercluster, cross-border and cross-sectorial collaboration, supporting the growth, global competitiveness and internationalization of the EU precision medicine ecosystem. The mission of this meta-cluster would be to support innovation through industry and research cross-border collaboration, in order to increase competitiveness. The vision is to create a fostering environment for the organizations, and the goal is to develop and facilitate an active ecosystem in precision medicine. These are the objectives of the MedicNest meta-clusters. I will not focus on this topic. You can read them. And also, this meta-cluster elaborated a strategy in precision medicine and a portfolio of projects, as well as a first joint action plan in precision cancer medicine, based on its members' interests and capabilities within a cancer mission. The meta-cluster will support its members in developing successful proposals in various funding calls, like Horizon Europe, I3, EU4 Health, Digital Europe, and others. And the last topic of the presentation focuses on the InnoMed Catalyst project, which had its kickoff meeting just 3 weeks ago in Piatra Neamț, northeast Romania. 10 regions of Europe from all stages of development joined this project through their clusters, looking to boost the regional innovation capacity with focus on digital 5P medicine. 5P meaning predictive, preventive, personalized, participatory, and precise. InnoMeta cluster will map regional value chains, bridge connections, and train stakeholders in order to help them innovate and then facilitate an acceleration program that will lead to strategic planning and implementation of interregional investment projects in 5P precision medicine. Thank you very much. For questions, ask Alina.
Thanks a lot, Cosmin, and indeed thanks for coming to Sabin, for Alina, with such short notice. Indeed, I think this, what you've seen and what you've heard already before and what you'll hear later, it's a really good example of how, as in many fields happen, regions are driving forces of innovation in Europe, and that's why we also wanted to give this particular focus for today's meeting. But similar to what we did before, I think we also have a Slido for you again, so we reignite a little bit the interaction with the audience. So indeed, driving forces, but of course also facing a set of challenges. So I would like to ask the audience, as you can see here, to join with this question: what is the biggest challenge to implementing precision oncology at the regional level? And then I will ask to the colleagues a little bit of a comment about that. Let's give it some moments for these. I guess I see again the issue related to funding and reimbursement, testing, infrastructure limitation is something that it's been there since the beginning, I think, of today's discussion, but still also the skills, those who needs to drive these in the driving seat in hospitals and elsewhere. But as we are quite tight with time, so we have a few minutes left, I saw that you were responding maybe to the question, Robert, like, can we ask if you respond, or like if you're surprised about the results?
I'm not surprised because, in fact, I bought this first option. I think that it's not only funding and reimbursement, but I think that the most important problem that we have, if we believe in Europe, what we cannot accept is that there are these inequities between the different regions or countries, no? And there is a problem of funding. If we believe also in healthcare systems that give solutions, no? Universal solutions for patients, the problem we have is that there are limited budgets at the healthcare systems. They normally react at short term. they do not have a planification at mid-term and long term. And this kind of solutions, for sure, include some risk. And they need to manage this risk, but they do not have. I think that they are following the same procedures that in the past, no? And this needs new ways to adopt these innovations, to evaluate them, no? And understand that this is not an expense; it's an investment, no, for future, no? And I think that this is the main problem, because if not, we see this in our region in Catalonia. We have close to Barcelona, patients can access to some solutions that people from rural parts of the region cannot. If you open this to Spain or to Europe, the difference increases a lot. So I think that this is the most important part.
Indeed, and comes also a discussion of like investing in health, something that can bring like an excellent benefit like going forward, but that is difficult to do because it's not happening maybe tomorrow. Yeah. And maybe Cosmin, I don't know if you want to come in quickly on this to close the session.
Yes, thank you. Indeed, the lack of funding is an important issue, also in Romania, because the infrastructure is in need of funding also. But I think this idea to create clusters and clusters of clusters is helping also the regions that are a bit behind, let's say, or that don't have enough funding. And I think that nowadays we have a lot of opportunities at European level of funding from various sources, also for SMEs, for example, to engage in this field of health. So I think we need more preparation, let's say, for projects and collaboration on different scales in order to reach the goals. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Cosmin. Indeed, all these points were also very clear in the roadmap that we've seen earlier today, and then I think we'll discuss in a minute. But I would like to just ask a quick round of applause for the two colleagues. It was a quick session, but I think very explanatory of what's happening at regional level in Europe. So I think that's it from us. I guess I will call back Eduardo in for the last bit of the event.
Thank you, Michele, and thank you all. We've got now the last 45 minutes approximately, so hold on tight. It's going to be very interesting also what we're going to discuss now. I would like to invite the roundtable panelists here. Let me start with Dr. Friedrich Thielen, Dr. Elisa Sangiorgi, Antonella Cardone, and Ivana Cattaneo. Please, welcome. The objective of this final round of discussion, as you may recall, we said that we started from the policy framework, the leadership that the European Union, the Commission, has shown in the past several years, from Europe's Beating Cancer Plan and all the other related activities. Then we moved into collaborative excellence, the value of collaboration across member states. And that's really where substantive examples that have got to do with precision oncology and its implementation were illustrated. Same happened with these couple of projects that at the regional level have been illustrated. And now we have to think and consider what are the potential barriers to accessing precision oncology, and there sure are. It is a very evolving ecosystem, a very an ongoing type of set of challenges and set of opportunities which are being addressed by authorities, but also by all the key stakeholders. And that's why in this panel we have a varied group of stakeholders who will help us also understand what kind of challenges and moreover what kind of financial barriers may be encountered at this point in time in order to accelerate the implementation and the uptake of precision oncology. We will then have our Slido interaction, so get ready for that. And don't worry, you want to use mine? And then a final question to all the panelists, I will say it right away, is a sort of call to action that may emerge from everything we've heard today. And then I will leave it into the capable hands of Bettina Rill to summarize. Well, summarize, perhaps it's a big word, it's a big effort, but at least to help us with some final comments for the day. So again, hold on tight, and let's start with Frederick, please. Frederick is working on another important project, which is called HECO-PERMED. And HECO-PERMED aims to identify the best modeling and payment strategies for personalized medicine to differentiate between promises and reality. That's the quote which you will all find also on the dedicated webpage. And we are going straight into the heart of the discussion. Frederick.
Exactly. Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you. It's before 12, so I still say good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for the opportunity to talk about financial barriers in precision oncology, and also some of the key lessons and some of the key findings that we found in the European Horizon-funded project HECO-PERMED. My name is Frederick Thielen, assistant professor, and I work at the Erasmus University in Rotterdam. When we talk about barriers and when we talk about financial barriers, I just want to make clear, also make sure that we are all on the same page, more or less. When we talk about these barriers, then we can think about many different aspects, and one of them, of course, being the healthcare budget. If we look at the average healthcare expenditures relative to the GDP in European member states, then we see that this is around 11% of the GDP across member states. This can range from 5.7 to 11% as part of the GDP. And if we contrast that, for example, to the education budget, this is around 5% of the GDP. These budgets have constraints, and these constraints can be many faceted. Possible constraints can be, for example, also financial constraints. Of course, this is one of the biggest ones, but also workforce and resource constraints. So if we are to allow new medicines and new therapies into the market, for example, also personalized medicines, then we are hitting these constraints, because we know that every euro that we spend on one intervention, on personalized medicine, for example, cannot be spent on another intervention. This means that also we need, within the healthcare budget, within these constraints, if we want to stay within those, and often we need to displace other therapies, we need to displace other interventions. Another way of looking at it could also be, if we do not displace within the healthcare budget, we just decrease other budgets, and then we can still afford new interventions and new therapies. Yet another way would also be, of course, to increase the thresholds of the constraints and then just increase the insurances, premiums, or taxes, for example. But why do we care about these barriers? Well, I think in most, and if not all, European member states, the goal of healthcare policy making is to ensure affordable and equitable access for all patients. So that means not only for those who need personalized and precision oncology and medicine, but also for all other patients. And this should be done in an effective and a sustainable manner. Sustainability means here, of course, also financial sustainability, research sustainability, and what comes more and more into play also in recent years is the environmental sustainability that also needs to be integrated in this. We want high quality care. Personalized medicine is playing here a big role, of course. And in terms of equity, we want no systemic disparities between patient groups. So these are very important factors that we need to take into consideration when we talk about barriers. So what can we do? One of the policy tools that we have at hand is, for example, health technology assessment. And if you are a decision maker and reimbursement decision maker, for example, you would start such an assessment of a new health technology. And some of these aspects that are looked within this health technology assessment are, for example, the current use of the technology, the technical aspects, how is it used, but also safety and clinical effectiveness. All of these aspects that you see also in the top bar here can be done on a European level and are actually also pushed towards this European level. If you think about the new EU HTA regulation and the joint clinical assessment, then we are on a good way to making these aspects researched on a European level and being assessed on a European level. So there will be less disparities between member states when it comes to these aspects. On the other side, health technology assessment also integrates aspects like costs and economics. This is what we will focus here today on. And also ethical aspects, organizational, patient and social and legal aspects. These all fall within the realm of the member states because also the EU has no mandate, of course, also in dictate how member states will spend their budget, and also some of the legal aspects and ethical concerns can be very much based on the member state. So these aspects will probably for a long time, if not for a very long time, still remain in the realm of the member states. What does not mean that we can also not change those, but this would be have to be on a basis that everybody wants. If we look at personalized medicine, so this is what we looked into HECOPERMED. We made a systematic literature review of more than 270 different interventions for personalized medicine. And what we see is if we pool them all together and we look at the quality adjusted life years, so not only the life years gained, but also the life years in good quality. And then if we compare those to the comparator treatments, then we see that the average is a gain of 0.26 quality adjusted life years, meaning 3 months more or less in perfect health that can be gained on average with these personalized medicine interventions. Of course, the disparity is huge. 270 different interventions also mean that there are very good and high outliers. 6%, 16 interventions rendered more than 1 quality adjusted life year. So if you compare this to the actual treatment. And gene therapies had the largest health benefit. On the other side, the cost consequences are also large, and they can sometimes offset the value of these health gains. So if we look at the health gains, which are there, of course, but then we also see that the costs, so the incremental costs, if we compare this to the standard care, to the treatment that we are comparing this to, they can be huge. And also here, there is a huge variation, of course. But these very high costs, taken together with the health gain, and if we're talking about the incremental net monetary benefit, which is defined as the health gain times the willingness to pay ratio that countries have, but then also minus the incremental costs, then we see that this incremental net monetary benefit on average is negative. Negative meaning that often these interventions are not being rendered as cost effective. So the prices are maybe a little bit too high for what we get in return. There are, of course, problems sometimes when we assess these cost-effectiveness interventions or when we assess with a cost-effectiveness framework. And this is that current economic evaluations may not fully capture and also not fully appreciate the value of innovative personalized approaches. We look at quality-adjusted life years. This is something that we always or mostly integrate. We also look at the net costs, but then also aspects like productivity, losses or productivity gains and family spillover. So anything that also happens across families, because we heard this today also, it's not only the patient that is affected, but also entire families. This is sometimes, not always included. Other aspects, like for example, equity, value of hope, or value of knowing, these are currently and commonly not included in standard economic evaluation. So this is something that we could change. But there are concerns, of course. How do we measure those? How do we measure equity, really? How do we measure the value of hope? And if we include those, do we not double count some of these aspects? Because quality of life might already entail some of these aspects of the value of hope. So then we are double counting, and we need to correct for these aspects as well. Also, there's here a sole focus on the positive value elements. There might also be others that are not represented here. And also maybe the threshold could or should be adapted. So all in all, how can we accelerate access to personalized medicine? Heiko Permet came out with this position paper, and some of these aspects I want to highlight. Conducting horizon scanning and increasing early health technology assessment could align also the outcomes and could align the different aspects that reimbursement decision makers need for introducing personalized medicine. Also, we could stimulate the use of personalized medicine by integrating cost effectiveness into clinical guidelines and policy tools. So that means at this moment, clinical guidelines are not always also looking into the cost effective aspects and the cost aspects, and this could be something that could change and could stimulate the appropriate use of personalized medicine. Also, we could shift from the one-off cost effectiveness analysis to do a more cyclic cost effectiveness analysis. At the moment, we are looking at interventions only once in a cost effective framework, but we could do this more often because also in the long time, more evidence will of course emerge. Then the evidence requirements that are needed for EMA approval, for example, they're very different than the ones that are used by the member states for reimbursement decision making. Things like the joint clinical assessment are already tackling those partly, but this could also be something that we could look into even more. We could, because then, this is the following point, develop and share European cost effectiveness models that could be adapted to these national needs. So we have this first row, if you remember, that is done on the European level, joint clinical assessment, for example, but some of these cost aspects, some of these ethical aspects, they could also be integrated in joint cost effectiveness models that could be shared across member states. Another aspect would be also to use financial and performance-based managed entry agreements to reduce the uncertainty, reduce the upfront cost maybe also, and share the risk across the different stakeholders. And then we heard this, I think, today also a couple of times, to establish dedicated code for companion diagnostics and genetic tests to reflect the values and integrate those maybe also in the reimbursement package upfront so that we know what the total picture of the costs would be for personalized medicine. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Frederic. And that's really an array of solutions that have been outlined, particularly here at the end, which offer a perfect segue to Elisa, because you are working for a large Italian region, Emilia-Romagna, and there are very practical and daily challenges that have to be addressed in order to facilitate and hopefully accelerate also the implementation of precision oncology. Elisa.
Thank you very much for this invitation. This meeting gives me the opportunity to present our regional system and our barriers in adoption of medical products based on specific targets. I want also thank you for the effort to put into the same table a dialogue between different stakeholders, and thank to Euriga, Incisive Health, and FPIA. My presentation, okay. Our healthcare system is characterized by a universal coverage. It tries to offer equitable healthcare to everyone. It is financed through general taxation, and we have a big regional autonomy, and there are many differences between a region and another in the same country. our challenges are overcome regional disparities, the financial sustainability, the ensuring timely access to new treatments, balancing quality care with cost control, reforming funding mechanism. But regions are several limitations because we don't decide the market authorization that is granted by EMA. We don't decide drug prices and reimbursement, and we don't decide the resources allocated to our healthcare system that are decided by the Minister of Economy, and we are controlled, assessed by the Minister of Health about the care that we provide to all citizens. But we have this, at the same time the responsibility to provide care to the citizens and to have a balanced budget. We have two kinds of medication, Class A and Class H. Class A are provided by affiliated pharmacies for outpatients that suffer of chronic diseases such as diabetes, cardiovascular disease, COPD, for example. Class H medication are administered and dispensed in hospital for serious diseases, and oncology drugs are the primary expense item in this category. Rare disease, drugs for rare disease are the second items. Precision oncology includes not only gene therapies, ITMPs, but also all therapies directed against specific targets. The only exception is the classical chemotherapy. For us, the big concern is the increasing expenditure on oncology drugs and advanced therapies. We also think that we have to conduct horizon scanning to proper plan for the sustainability, and we also are involved in HTA assessment because we believe that we need to consider more aspects than the only cost effectiveness. This is our pharmaceutical expenditure in Emilia-Romagna for Class H. For Class A medication, we spent only 500 million euros, but for Class H, 1.2 billion euros. But I've seen what we spent in 2013, 10 years ago, and we spent only 400 million euros, and 1/3 of them were for oncology drugs. Now 1/3, but 1/3 of 1.2 billion. So the increasing is absolutely dramatic for us. Moreover, there are currently 61 clinical trials underway for ATMPs. The average cost of one ATMPs is, for example, for one CAR T is 300,000 euros. So it's very, very expensive for us. And in 2023, we spent only for 3 CAR Ts 12 million euros. Reimbursement. I also agree that managed entry agreements, in particular payment at result, could be a better way to define the reimbursement. Also to ensure a premium price for companies that produce innovation. Moreover, we have a dedicated fund to finance innovative medicines. In 2023, that fund amounted to 1.3 billion euros at national level. In Emilia-Romagna, 100 million euros. But what is innovative medicine in Italy? Our regulatory agency defines the status of innovative medicines, and with the 3 criteria: therapeutic need, added therapeutic value, strength of the scientific evidence. These kind of medicine are immediately available to patients, even without inclusion in the regional hospital therapeutic schedules. But the problem is that innovative drugs have a data of have an expiration. This status expires after 3 years, and then we have a big problem about the funding to pay these kind of drugs. We have also ethical issues because to maintain a balanced budget, we have to give an access to all the patients, and this is difficult. We have limited evidence regarding innovative precision therapies, because the trials have some limitation, such as small number of patients and lack long-term monitoring. This kind of monitoring is absolutely important to detect severe and rare adverse events and to assess long-term effectiveness. And also, in our opinion, data, we have to address privacy regulation issues to allow public systems and researchers access to follow-up data. Long-term monitoring is very important to see the real effectiveness in clinical practice. We need also encourage workforce capacity and, for example, centralization in center of excellence, for example, IRST of Meldola for prescription administration, and maybe research to create new ATMPs centers. So we think that we need a review of a legislative framework to support and improve healthcare system, working at both regional and European level to promote research, the proper use and the monitoring of precision therapies, thereby ensuring the health of citizens. As a region, we have a network of clinical oncology to encourage appropriate use of oncology therapies, to define the place in therapy and assess the cost effectiveness. We also have a network of oncology pharmacists to standardize the technical criteria of centralized laboratories. We have a molecular tumor board. We are involved in PRECISE EU, and we have a database of that collects regional data on prescription of both infusion and oral oncology therapies, and it is a tool to manage treatment appropriateness, assess diagnostic and therapeutic pathways, plan the use of available resources, estimate the regional impact of various care settings, and monitoring long-term effectiveness and safety of the treatment. And this is my working group. Thank you.
Elisa, thank you very much indeed. And there is obviously a constant challenge, perhaps a constant tension, I should say, between funding and access to innovation. This is something that we have seen over decades. I think that there are also other dimensions, and I turn to Antonella, that have to be considered. Frederick had mentioned the importance of capturing the value of precision oncology at best. There are budgetary constraints, as you have clearly suggested, so to speak. But Antonella, there are also questions that have got to do with access to quality, to the optimal quality of care for the patients around Europe, and then there is a question of equity that has been outlined also in previous presentations.
Yeah. Thank you, Eduardo, and thank you to FPA and Euriga for co-organizing this event with Cancer Patients Europe. We have heard, I mean, we started the event today with a patient presenting how important precision oncology is practically for a cancer patient, and how precision oncology, when used at the beginning of a cancer diagnosis and treatment, can save a life or prolong a life significantly and with a good quality of life. So at CPE, precision oncology has been at our heart from the very beginning. We have started with an initiative called My Cancer, My Concern. And within this initiative, we wanted to start learning how precision oncology can really benefit patients. We have heard throughout the day today how high precision oncology is on the research agenda, how high it is on the policy agenda. But then practically for patients, what does this mean? How this translates practically for patients? So we launched a survey on genomic testing and breast cancer. And the striking result of this survey was that 4 out of 5 patients, breast cancer patients, eligible for genomic testing in 5 countries in Europe, UK, Spain, France, Italy, and Germany, were not even mentioned by their oncologist that genomic testing was an option. So this is, for us, this is unbearable. I mean, we cannot ignore this negative outcome. Then we, last year, I mean, actually in 2024, we wanted to go deeper and understand on a specific mutation, on ESR1, what is the understanding and awareness of patients of liquid biopsy and how liquid biopsy can be beneficial to them. And even in this case, it came out that the awareness and knowledge of the vast majority of the patients answering the survey, which were over 1,200, was very low. So there is a need to increase awareness. There is a need to increase the education among the patients. But also, healthcare providers are not recommending, are not prescribing genomic testing, so liquid biopsy, when it is available in the country. So in countries, so we did our survey in 5 countries where the genomic testing is available, and it was not prescribed. So this is really, I mean, a problem. So our big call to action here is that we need to bridge the gap between what is the research result and what is really then practically available to the patients.
Thank you, Antonella. You've already jumped to the call to action, and that's a very good, a very wise way of anticipating also what we want to try and extrapolate from the discussion. Speaking of which, there are several questions which are coming in. Perhaps, Ivana, there is one which I will paraphrase a little bit, and that goes in the same direction as regards potential ways to overcome barriers to access. Actually, what would you think are the most appropriate strategies, at least the low-hanging fruits, if we can call them low-hanging fruits, that can be most effective in ensuring long-term accessibility and affordability of precision oncology? I think if you read it the other way around, it is also about barriers and how to overcome these barriers. So Ivana, floor is yours. I pause you for a second, because then I will have a question for Frederic afterwards on the implementation of the HTA regulation, which is something that is also coming from the audience. How does it connect and how does it facilitate, potentially, hopefully, precision oncology? How does it relate also to the various points you have made? And I realize now that it's a panel, it's an all-Italian panel. So if you can adapt your accent, please, so that we can fully consider you part of the family. Thank you.
Thank you, Edoardo. And I realized that when I thought, okay, all Italian, but there is it was not done on purpose, of course, but there is also a tradition in Italy on the topic of cancer care that historically I can talk for 3 hours about this, so this explains why there are also always a lot of people active in cancer. But back to us here. So first of all, thank you for being all here today, and thank you for everything that was shared today. I think when I go back historically, as I was mentioning before, 20 years ago, the concept of precision medicine or precision oncology was really, really something generating a lot of skepticism. So for me today, I'm very happy to see that after many years, by traveling all together as a community, yes, Antonella, we do have patients alive. Yes, I'm hearing now more than 20 years ago that from the medical class that there is value and merit. And yes, also from the HTA side, the health economy side, I'm hearing this. And yes, I'm hearing, but we still have a problem in terms of sustainability. True, nobody is denying that. How can we do? That was your question, Eduardo. I think, first of all, we really need to rethink the relationship between testing and treatment. They do have to go hand in hand, because to have the clinical validity or the clinical utility of a testing, there needs to be an associated therapies, but also to have to extract the proper value from a therapy, you need the testing part. So we need really to stop thinking in a silo approach and in a silo mentality. And if I go one level up, that's also when it comes to the true value assessment. So in precision medicine and oncology, the value need to be captured, that's our view, along the entire chain. So not only in the bracket of treatment, you really need, and I think you were going along the same line, you really need to capture a cost, opportunity, and benefit along the chain. But then what happened? Our systems are interestingly in design, because you may have benefit coming out of the approach. The investment is made by the Ministry of Health, but the benefit goes back maybe to the Ministry of Labor or to the societal. And so I make the investment and you get the gain. And that's not acceptable at national level, but I'm also thinking, are we really ready to let innovation go? Innovation that is really making patients staying alive and enjoying life, because our systems are not properly designed. Is this what we want to do? I don't think so. So how to do that, and then I close. I think whenever there was a common interest, so we may come from different positions, but whenever there is a common interest, we always find solution. Also on the funding part, where we come up with novel pricing model, novel funding model. But first of all, we really need to have a common interest, which is the one of reaching the patient, doing good for the patient, and keeping the system sustainable. And then I'm pretty sure we have enough knowledge, if we work in partnership, that we can tackle the issues. That's okay? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before we move to the slide, though, so get ready for that, Frederic, I wanted to ask you about the HTA regulation. And as part of this systemic development or systemic framework, which has to take into account all the elements that Ivana was referring to and that you have outlined at the very beginning, is it a way to improve the full value assessment of precision oncology, or is it going to present some challenges?
Grazie, Eduardo. I will continue in English with my proper German accent, if you allow. The HTA regulation will hit 1st of January 2025, and will also all oncology and cell and gene therapies need to undergo this. What that means is that on a European level, there will not only be the EMA approval that would be the burden for the pharmaceutical manufacturers, but also preparing a report that is based on a consolidated PICO, so the patient intervention comparator outcome assessment of all member states that take part in this. This is a huge challenge, because often the clinical data that we have gathered, or the manufacturers have gathered until this point, may not be able to answer all these different aspects, purely based on the data that has been gathered. So also there we have the need of network meta-analysis and all advanced techniques. But this will probably, and we don't know yet, because this has not been done yet, only in simulation trials, so to say, or in simulations. We will see, I think, that it will be easier for modelers of cost-effectiveness models to integrate this part of the equation, so the effects. But then the cost side will still be something that all the member states will have to do. And we have to see how this fits into these timelines to really then also have full HTA reports that are still needed on the member state level to negotiate reimbursement. So it will make parts of the equation, because cost effectiveness is about costs and effects, so the effects will be maybe a little bit easier to integrate into these models, and this is basically on the modeler side, but still the cost side is something we still have to look at, and will still be the same burden as before. So I hope that it will make the life easier, and it will accelerate patient access, because this is ultimately, of course, the aim of this EU HTA regulation. What this plays out and how many days we can actually gain at the end, we will see with the first ones coming in as of January next year.
I just want to complement this intervention about the challenges of ATMPs within the new EU HTA regulation. And we believe that another important aspect that comes before the cost-effectiveness analysis is the evidence that is going to be considered, which with ATMPs becomes very challenging, especially when the only evidence that is considered is randomized clinical trials. Because when it comes to ATMPs, this is, randomized clinical trials are very challenging and sometimes impossible, because we are talking about smaller and smaller and smaller populations. So what we are pushing for instance, is also the validation of alternative evidence to randomized clinical trials.
And this is because I talk about long-term monitoring, and because, for example, in some diseases, the patients with ATMPs maybe will be healed. There will be a healing, completely healing. So
that's another huge debate, because ATMPs have a curative promise, at least. Therefore, they should even fall into a totally different category, hypothetically and ideally. And they should not be budgeted as short-term expenditure for national authorities, regional authorities. I even learned it's an investment. It's an investment, and it's a long-term investment. Now, in case anybody had heard it, when I heard it, I was really shocked. Military expenses are long-term investments. So according to EU accounting rules, guns and weapons and tanks can be considered as long-term investments, thank you very much, as opposed to ATMPs. Slido. Let's do a Slido, a final minute of feedback and reactions on the question, which is, what is the most significant barrier to access for precision oncology across the EU? And all these points you will see are actually part of the discussion that we are having, that we want to have going forward. So let's see who is the winner here. Okay, let's pause here for a second. At the top, there is misalignment of reimbursement pathways for diagnostics and therapies. Perhaps, Elisa, you want to tell us what's your feeling or what's your experience with regard to this specific point?
I didn't vote, but I'd if I could, I'd vote that issue. I think it's the big concern and the big challenge to find a fund to have good therapies for all based on precise target, and but I think that in the long period this could low the expenditure for all the system.
Okay, so it would allow to combine and save and make a more efficient investment. Perfect. 1 minute each, starting with Frederic now. A comment and your call to action, please.
So I can choose whatever from this one? So I think the like all of them are more or less 30%, so all of them are equally important, of course, also seen by the audience, I would feel. The inadequate value assessment of precision oncology, I think especially what Antonella already said also, is that we have often the problem that we have short-term and in one single-arm trials. We need the cost-effectiveness analysis, cost-effectiveness models that take these into account. We already do model these effects on a long-term basis. I think we can also invest a little bit more into these models, make them a little bit more fit for the long run. Just as the EU joint clinical assessment, now the cost-effectiveness part needs to be integrated early and also could benefit from a little bit more refined versions. But for that also we need data. Data.
That's a very important message, which we should always repeat. Antonella, you were already a step ahead of all of us with the call to action, but if you have another call to action.
Yes, of course. I have a long list of call to actions. When it comes to a priority and maybe to looking for some sort of coordination and alignment among member states, my call to action would be towards a European semester of health, starting with a pilot on cancer, because I think we already have a tool at European level of coordination among member states, and that's the European semester. But currently, the European semester is looking essentially at economic and social indicators. And so we believe that as a tool is already there, having also health indicators included into the European semester would be ideal. And cancer, why cancer? Because, I mean, we've had Europe's Beating Cancer Plan, the Cancer Mission, so I think that member states are prepared to look at indicators specifically on cancer. Of course, the single-arm clinical trials versus randomized clinical trials are fundamental for ATMPs to be looked at into the HTA regulation.
Thank you, Antonella. Ivana, you have the possibility to summarize everything.
We have a long list as well, as you know, but I think I would like really to call for the fact that we go hand in hand. Testing and treatment going hand in hand. As different stakeholders in the same environment, we need to go hand in hand if we really want to raise awareness so that patients have the right information, ACP has the right information, hand in hand so we can have the proper infrastructure and the proper workforce on the ground, hand in hand if we want to reach the patient, get recognition of the value of the innovation with HTA and reimbursement. So hand in hand, test and treatment, but also all of us. We are part of the same journey, guys.
And sustainability and treatment.
Exactly.
Well, this is a great message. Thank you, Ivana. Collaboration and working all together, hand in hand, preferably, is always the solution, especially to complex challenges like this one. We've heard a lot today, and there have been many very, very interesting examples. I would like, first of all, to have a round of applause to the panel here. Let me invite, in the meantime, Bettina Rill to join us and give some final thoughts. And I would like also to thank you all for being here the whole day. It's been very rich, and it reinforces, as far as I am concerned, the conviction that Europe's leadership is tangible, is concrete, is happening as we speak, and Europe can continue to be a catalyst for research, innovation, science, particularly for the benefit of people with cancer. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So, I got the honor to summarize today's learnings and thoughts, and so I've been scribbling notes, and I will do my best in those last 10 minutes of today. First, I would like to thank the organizers for the opportunity to be here. For those of you who don't know me, precision medicine, or personalized medicine, how we used to call this, is a topic close to my heart. I started a patient organization after my husband died of cancer. So cancer is, as we have heard, also a personal topic to myself. I have a past as a physician in training. I have a PhD in a topic that's very close actually to what precision medicine tries to unravel, and we have heard about heterogeneity already today. And I have worked mainly under a recommendation for personalized medicine when I was on the first EU Cancer Mission Board. And that has continued, that I'm now involved in different European projects where we really try to make precision medicine accessible for patients who desperately need them, as I unfortunately learned myself. So that for a little bit of background, that you understand where I'm coming from. If you reflect on today, we actually started very appropriately with a wake-up call. That the time to act now is now. Now we have opportunities at the table, decisions have to be made, so now we have to be ready, we should have a position, we should know where we want to be going. So now it is time to get our act together. There was also an allusion to COVID. We have really proven ourselves that we can act differently, that we can be fast, that we can be decisive, that we can get innovation to people everywhere in Europe. So no one should be allowed to tell us otherwise. So we know we can do it. We have then heard something about the challenges when it comes to precision medicine, namely that there is this intimate relationship between diagnostics and then treatment. And often when we talk about precision medicine, we think about molecular diagnostics and the therapy, but we also had examples later on about radiotherapy. But there is always this connection between a diagnosis process and then the action coming afterwards.
I would like to build and expand on that connection. It is not merely the diagnostic and the treatment. I would argue that it is also about capturing outcomes and the decision-making process that follows after that belongs to this entire chain. And failure to account for it leads then to what we have heard in the last session, that it is very difficult for decision makers to come to any conclusion. I personally also dislike the concept of companion diagnostic. It's not as simple as one drug, one test. If you think from health, if you are a tiny little pathology sample, there are only so many tests you can run on it to start with. But also if you are a country or a region and you want to adapt a lot of therapies at the same time, you might need a different approach than having a pile of companion tests. So I would like to invite everyone to leave from here to not think of a one-to-one relationship, but a matching of different opportunities coming to each other. That was then actually echoed by the following session, where we heard from members from the European Commission from different different settings and their different perspectives, how precision medicine affects them. And I think there was that reflected actually this nice wide range. Coming from research, bridging over to healthcare, we learned about the importance of data. Without data, we will never be able to demonstrate anything, and that will undercut our learnings. And I think therefore I understand why data is maybe not the sexiest topic, and of course it was a bit sneaky to have you choose between single options, while in the end I believe this infrastructure is an important piece that we should never forget. It's helpful for all of us to remember that there are help structures in place. There are places where one can get advice, support, connections. And I think that is something that we probably all have to look into, and to make sure that we get that the support that is actually on offer goes to the places where it is needed. I can tell we were on the mission board, and there were again and again initiatives coming say that they had funds that were not called off, that there were offers for support that were not called upon. So yet again, that's a matching issue. And I think something that is also I don't have an answer to that, but it has stayed with me, and it's something that needs fixing. A point that was actually on your slide that I very much liked was the last mile. Coming from a patient perspective, and that's why I said it. If we don't get it into our patients, it's wasted. Nothing fancy called whatever we want, unless it makes a difference for our people, is not medicine. So in the end, that should be what we should measure ourselves by. And we've heard about different initiatives, EU initiatives, and when it would be me, that would be the KPI. Patients who benefited from our projects. Unless we reach that, unless we move the needle at that level, nothing will have changed. I always say, if we produce white papers, what am I supposed to tell a patient who comes to me and who's desperate? Am I supposed to take the white paper and go like this? This is not how we treat patients. We should challenge ourselves that the readout of us is real in the real world. And then I think it was kind of an interesting bridge coming to how do we actually get it into our systems. And that was a good segue to the importance of the region. Because we know that that healthcare is often organized at regional level, and this is where patients are also seen and treated. And those are the ones closest to our patients in terms of culture and language in organization and setup. And I think I actually once thought about, because the question came several times, so how are we going to organize all this, so many people? I do believe that there is power in distribution. It is we can all agree on reasonable standards, and then everyone goes home and does their homework, just as we did it in COVID. It's not about having a spider controlling everyone. That does never work in Europe, nowhere else either. But it is a way to think of us as a distributed system and to leveraging that as a power, instead of wondering how on earth we will even go about thinking about this. There was a very, very valid comment that I very much liked, and that I would like to resume as what is used in, for example, humanitarian aid as glocal. We have to be ultra-local while at the same time be thinking global and have a global ambition. And while I can understand that regions say, okay, others are making decisions for us, there's the EMA and there's the government and there are others who take important decisions influencing all us, maybe we should not forget the history for how we, for example, ended up having the European Medicines Agency and what it means for all of us Europeans. Because if we all take our own little decisions, we kind of place this entire population of 450 million people into tiny, tiny, tiny units, none of which are competitive at global scale. And let's not forget, let's just look a bit outside Europe, what the environment looks like and what that means for us. We in our tiny little entities have zero chance. We're only together that we have a chance. And that means that at some point we need an agreement between us. So getting the balance right, so what has to be local and where should we have a joint ambition, I think that these are the important discussions we should be having. Where do we benefit from having a joint perspective? Where are we more agile and more appropriate if we're as local as possible? That's, by the way, the principle of subsidiarity. I very much agree with the statement that disparity is not acceptable. You said there's 200 kilometers left or right from where you live should not determine whether you have a chance to live or die. I've seen this in my own network, and it is heartbreaking that it is the lottery of where you're born that decides whether you even get a chance to survive or not. When my husband was diagnosed, all our stage 4 patients basically died. And then we had new drugs coming through, and then it was the country or the place where you were treated that decided whether you lived or died. And the first was horrendous, but the second one I found entirely unacceptable. So I congratulate you for that statement. There was also the mention that we have to think about health maybe more as an investment and about managing risk instead of just looking at it from the mere cost side. Because I do think it became very clear that our old tools, the way we deal with the system, is not fit for purpose when it comes for precision medicine. The issue of drug prices aside, and I know that's a Pandora's box and a nasty one, so I'm not even going to try to open it because I have 10 minutes, just like everyone else, is a big issue. Sustainability of our healthcare systems, we should not fool ourselves, is something that we have to tackle, and independent of the precision medicine topic, because precision medicine is just one of those innovations that we struggle to adopt in our societies if we don't fix this sustainability issue. And there is going to be a long and nasty one in the years to come. An issue because I think that is, and it wasn't really, I was missing this a little bit today, what we should not forget, if we think about precision medicine, as I call this the catch-22, in traditional ways, we usually generate evidence, after which we take a decision, and then we implement into our systems. The problem with precision medicine is because the patient groups are so small and we're still learning that we first have to implement at scale to just even find the patients and generate the evidence. So we have inverted the paradigm of evidence generation and decision making. And that has to be funded, and that has to happen in some way. And that means that our structures that were built for something else can actually even not be reasonably, I think, expected to deal with something that behaves very, very differently. Value attribution was also mentioned. It was this pathway where we know that so many connected elements are important and who contributes which value, where I do believe that there we have long discussions coming up, especially imagine a region putting up or fronting up large investments into their diagnostic capacities. Where does the value, who generates the value, where does the value come? We also know that diagnostic in itself creates other opportunities, for example, attracting clinical trials that contribute to the wealth of a region or also a country. Therefore, countries have clinical trials initiatives. We didn't even touch upon that. But I think a region brings this closely together where the ecosystem is closed and where people see the connections between much more clearly than sometimes, I think, at the abstract level of a country. And with that, I would like to come with my conclusions. If we step one step back, precision medicine is a paradigm shift that behaves very different from the medicine of old that I even got told in med school, and that sometimes feels a long time ago, but it wasn't such a long time ago. We should not forget that right now is a moment of opportunity. It can feel wild, there are lots of barriers and problems, but it's seldom that there are so many opportunities to benefit from as we're now. And we have already discussed and we know that this is about multi-stakeholders working together. It's awareness in our population, but then comes the collaborative piece, which we know is difficult, and every stakeholder has to be at the table, including the decision makers. We also know that we need infrastructure, we need people, we need to finance it, we have to think long term. And we also know that there are lots of different pieces. It's very easy to complain and say, oh, this is all so wild. I'm I'm a glass half full person. I like to think of it as parallel innovation, where we test lots of different pieces in parallel. But then still we need to have the effort, or put in the effort to put the pieces together. So I think this is rather exciting time, where lots of things move in different places, hopefully with a better future in sight. We have to think local and global at the same time. So global is one of these buzzwords, but I think it fits quite well. Precision medicine is broader than health, and we should start discussing it also as broader than just. It has research implications, it has economic implications, and I believe that the solution will come from that space as well. So regions will therefore play an important role, first as delivery, or because they're responsible for the delivery of healthcare, but also where a lot of the innovation will take place and where a lot of the value will be created in the end. So therefore, I would like to see regions more prominent, for example, also in the European projects. I've been told regions can participate, but it's not so easy to find some. So please, volunteers would be very much appreciated. We should not forget that in the end there are patients. And I can tell you, as a patient advocate, we don't take no as an answer. Oh, we can't solve this. We're not going to go home and die. Just accepting that, no, this was too difficult. Our societies will demand innovation. We will have pressure from our societies, from our voters. So simply just not doing anything is no longer an option. And that was actually the last bit, and I'm going to end with that. Surely, if we can find financing models to finance tanks, surely we can finance precision medicine. Thank you.